But then you watch a game like tonight and LeBron kicked his ass. He's not ready to be a top 15 guy, but he really, really, really gives a shit about every game. It's great. I love it. This is a long, sustained offensive excellence that when you watch it feels legitimate. We're not going to be nice. What do we care? We're just these, let's call it what it is. I don't know what my camera is, but this is the Bill Simmons podcast, YouTube Live, presented by Michelob Ultra, Superior Light Beer, sponsor of the NBA. That's Rob Mahoney. That's Big Waz. So we're about to go live here, and a big trade happened. Cleveland gets DeAndre Hunter for LeVert, Niang, 2 second-round picks. Second-round picks, giant commodity, Waz. And then 2 first-round swaps. We don't know what they are. I like this trade more than Rob. Because I like DeAndre Hunter, and you're like, go ahead, do your thing.
I'm a skeptic. I'm a DeAndre Hunter skeptic. I like players who will, on occasion, pass. DeAndre Hunter doesn't really do that. And now, he's granted, while not passing, had the best season of his career by far. Has scored and shot in a way that he never has before. That's all well and good. But when I'm imagining the Cleveland freewheeling offense, I want somebody who's going to move the ball, who knows how to play and flow, and that's not really what DeAndre Hunter does to the point.
Is that LeVert, though? I mean, LeVert's a little ball stopper.
This year it has been, right? Like, he's actually been like a good soldier within that context. And I take your point, but I think he's actually done a pretty good job of that exact thing this year.
Yeah. Waz, you love the Hawks.
I did.
That's one of your surrogate teams.
Yeah, for sure, especially when Jalen Johnson wasn't injured. But Hunter, I think this year has most often looked like the version of him that's been sold to us basically since he's been drafted, right? Like this big physical guy who, you know, is really toolsy, but every now and again will make a shot and even create his own shot, which, you know, takes him past the 3 and D sort of element. The D has been hit or miss his whole career, and even his shooting has been sort of hit or miss. But this year, he's actually making shots, and I think
39% from 3.
That's what I think attracted him to the Cavaliers. I should
Did
say.
you guys see the Cavs Celtic game the other night?
Caught half of it.
I did.
I think this is a trade for a Celtics series where you're thinking we got to go against Tatum and Brown for 2 weeks potentially.
Yep.
We need a wing with size. We're not totally fired up about this LeVert Niang situation. Can Hunter be the guy? And I don't know. I like the trade. I don't care about swaps. Cleveland's going to be good the whole decade. Niang and LeVert, whatever. Second-round picks, whatever. And Hunter's on a great deal. I think he's making like 17.
Yeah,
it's not too bad.
Year.
This is the first year that it's felt like a great deal, though.
Right.
That's the crazy thing.
I think anytime you can get somebody under 20 who can play in the last 5 minutes of a round 2 playoff game, that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, I think Hunter's another one of those guys like Rui who looks the part. Where it's like, oh, he's this big physical guy, and we could get him to guard Tatum and Brown, but like in practice, he's just an offensive player. He's never been a defensive force at any point. Maybe in moments and possessions at a time, you'd be like, wow, if he could just tap into that always. And so that's why I feel like he's available for, you know, a Karis LeVert and second-round picks where famously, you know, great guys get picked.
I also like Cleveland going for it a little bit. You know, pushing in a way that there are certain non-negotiables on their roster, like Darius Garland, Jared Allen. Those guys are only going to play one position, but otherwise, you want a little lineup flexibility. You want the ability to play, you know, Strus here or Dean Wade there, or now DeAndre Hunter at the 3-4. Like there's some options for Cleveland that I think are pretty appealing, not just for a Celtics matchup, but really just getting through the Eastern Conference alive.
It's risky to make a trade when you're doing really well. To just mess with the chemistry and the vibes of what you have. But going back to the Boston thing, like I'm looking at Hunter's last season because I remember him just playing well against the Celtics, my favorite team. And they played them 4 times last year in the regular season, and he was good in 3 of the games. And then they played in the playoffs. I can't remember what he did against the playoffs, but I don't know. I'm sure they're trying to figure out Tatum and Brown. That's the mountain. Who's out there that's had some success against those guys?
Sure.
And then they're studying these Hunter things. I just don't really understand it from a Hawks perspective. Like, because they don't have their first round pick unless it's like, what is it, like top 10 protected?
Yeah,
something like that.
I think it's
is the tank in motion now, Wes?
Of course, and I think the tank has been in motion once they decided that, like,
when Jalen Johnson got hurt.
Yeah,
they
it's
really
over
have not been able to function without him
for the season. And, Hunter's been there for so long, He's been there long enough to get a rookie extension. Like, he's not new. So in a certain sense, like, he's a known commodity for them. So I can understand them being like, look, this thing has run its course. Let's get at least something out of this. And we're not the type of team where we're winning so much and he helps as this sort of ancillary part that will, help us out fill in the blanks rotation-wise. It's just like, let's get something for him. We're going in
Get
this
some
mega
subs.
youth
But so I just
movement
looked
or
it up.
whatever.
That pick's unprotected that the Spurs have.
Yeah, the one for 2025.
So it's not, you can't even call it a tank trade because what are they tanking for? To give San
Yeah.
Antonio a better pick.
Yeah.
And by the way, that pick, the De'Aaron Fox thing, the more I think about it, unconscionable that Sacramento doesn't get that pick.
Yeah.
But they get 2 picks and they get this flimsy Charlotte pick
Yeah,
that
that's
really turns into 2 seconds.
Not real.
I'm just not you watched De'Aaron Fox last night. I'm just not trading him unless I get that Atlanta pick, especially after Jalen Johnson goes out. It's like that might be, somewhere between 7 and 10. You're giving me that pick if I'm trading De'Aaron Fox. Somehow San Antonio keeps it.
But that's a team that they just dug themselves out of the absolute nadir of vibes in Sacramento. Like, it got so weird and so bad for their season, and they finally get this momentum with Doug Christie. They finally have some things with their roster sorted out. I don't know that it's realistic to expect the Kings to just sit on a couple months of De'Aaron Fox pouting, if that's what it would have been.
Yeah, and to what end, right? Like, I guess, the Hawks pick is definitely valuable. Like, I could see it landing, what are they, probably like in the 10 range or something like that, which, of course is a valuable pick. But at the same time, when the guy says that he wants to go to San Antonio, and San Antonio is clearly positioned to sign the guy outright if and when they need to or have to, and it's like the closer he gets to his free agency, the less valuable he becomes. I do wonder how much leverage they have in a situation to be like, screw that, you're giving me this. Because the Spurs season was going fine. Like, they could make the argument that, like, look, we don't need to bring Fox in right now. We like the way our young guys are coalescing around Wemby. The Chris Paul thing has worked out. Knock on wood, he hasn't even been hurt. And so there's no rush on our end. So they definitely could credibly say we could walk away from the table.
But then you see what happened last night, and you're like, this is why you get De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah.
You have this guy who's this really special, potentially generational player. He's in year 2. We've seen the timetable of some of these guys goes way faster than we expect.
Yeah.
Now you had Fox. So Hunter, it was the 2023 playoffs when he played Boston, and he basically put up 17 and 6, 37%. But I always felt like, I'm not saying he shut down Tatum or Brown or anything like that, but I always felt like, it's the 6'8" guys that are the guys that you want against us. So from a Cleveland standpoint, I just wonder like if that game changed their mindset at all. But I like the trade for them. Big picture. So Butler happens yesterday, not quite worthy of an emergency trade pod.
Who
It
thought about
was worthy until Saturday happened. I think if without Saturday, we definitely treat it as a monumental trade. Jimmy Butler's teaming up with Steph Curry and Draymond, like that whole saga ends. It's a story. It's a jolt to the Warriors season. It's just after Luka Doncic.
we're broken. The meter is broken. As
Well,
far as
Tuesday
what
night
registers.
when it seemed like Durant might go to the Warriors, and it was a 3-teamer with Butler going to Phoenix and whatever going to. That was emergency trade worthy. I was ready for that one. Yesterday with Butler, after he sulked for 4 months and didn't want to go to Golden State, and then it was like, well, can we frame it as it's a 2-year extension, but it's really a 1-year extension because he was already under contract. So he made an extra, I don't know, 61 million bucks, maybe 69 million bucks, whatever it is, to basically torpedo this Miami situation.
So that's
Is that worth it? Would you do that for $69 million, Waz? Would you just completely torpedo a situation?
so
He would
Probably
do,
yes.
He would do it for less.
So here's the thing.
How about $6.9 million?
So here's the thing. The Suns had agreed in principle to give him 2 extra years on top of what he already had in the bank.
But
for
Waz,
next
that would be
season.
tampering if they did that.
would-
What do you mean?
You're not allowed
Well,
to do that.
all of these reports about tell Golden State no or tell this person to go away or whatever, it's like holding out hope that Phoenix could somehow, by some miracle, get Bradley Beal out of there so they could bring Jimmy in and actually give him that extra year. Once that became not a possibility, it's like, all right, it's cool. We'll settle for Golden State. I want to get the hell out of Miami. It's only 1 year added. My agent's framing it as 120. It's really like 111. But whatever. I think he was just really holding out for that extra year that Phoenix had promised him.
Can I give you? Can I do a performance theater of how the Miami Phoenix trade talks went?
We would love it.
Just every couple days. What about Beal for Butler? No. Durant we would do. Okay, we'll call you back 3 days later. Hey, Beal maybe for Butler?
This
no.
is a perverse
Durant.
take on the Julie Delpy before sunrise
Right.
fake phone call.
And I think it just went on. And every time Miami's like, no, Durant. We're not taking Bradley Beal. Nobody wants Bradley Beal. And then they're telling Butler, we're not taking Bradley Beal. And Butler's like, well, I'm going to act like even a bigger dick. Like, fine.
Dude,
We can just keep doing this. We're not trading you for Bradley Beal.
Yeah.
Bradley Beal, it's just like at a certain point, Jimmy, it's worth it to take this to the summer. If Bradley Beal, who has a no trade clause, okay, it's not even just like, all right, we get Bradley Beal. It's like, if something comes up, we could use this guy to move or whatever. He's still a good player. He's not worth the 5th highest salary in the NBA, but he's still somebody who can play, who can help a team. It's not the end of the world. Bradley Beal, where he gets to dictate terms to the team that he gets traded to, it just makes absolutely no sense.
Without the no trade clause, is he more tradable to you?
He's gone. He's gone. Like I think it is the signature hang up of, it's not just like, oh, could you trade him to Miami or whatnot? It's there would be a taker on the market.
Because
for
you think
Bradley
like
Beal.
you get him this season, you have him next season,
Yes.
you can trade him as an expiring.
Yeah.
But with the no trade, you're stuck with him for
You
3
can't.
years.
You
Yes.
literally can't trade him.
You honestly cannot.
One of my many hot takes of this 2-part trade deadline podcast. I think Bradley Beal's playing kind of well for the Suns. Have you watched him lately? Like he's actually playing defense and he's playing hard and seems dedicated.
He's
but
been
I just
trying.
don't want to pay him $50 million.
No.
But
He's
it's
still
not like
a-
he's a disaster. This is
No,
not-
he's still somebody who contributes. And I would say he could contribute to winning. It's just when you're paying somebody like that, you would hope he's like your on-ball guy, your shot
I
creator,
know, but
your
Waz,
defensive
what did we say
disruptor.
when they made the trade? We were like, this is stupid. This is
Disaster.
too much money. Why are you doing this? We said it when Washington gave him the contract in the first
Disaster.
place.
Yep.
Why are you doing this? This is too much money. Why'd you put the no trade clause in? This was a comedy of errors. And now Phoenix, so they made a trade. They did. They finally dumped Nurkic.
Congratulations to them.
Nurkic, they used one of those 3 picks they got from that stupid trade they made with the 2031 first that they gave up that they were going to regret. And they got back, what was it, one of the Martins. They
Yep.
got back Micic,
Cody. Yeah,
who
Vasily
just moves
Micic.
around every year.
Yeah.
They got back a couple seconds because everyone loves seconds now.
Sure.
Got to get those seconds. Get that 1 in 20
It just
chance
looks
you might have
good
gotten
in
a
the
player.
tweet. It looks good in the tweet.
Oh, 1 in 18 chance. We maybe got a rotation guy.
I just have a very bad feeling we're going to look at the total math of that breaking up the 1 pick into 3, and it's going to be 3 deals that are basically like this. Like, basically use a first to dump Yusuf Nurkic's
To dump a dumb
contract.
decision you made.
To try to rebate another bad decision. The other ones, we'll see what happens. Maybe they pull a rabbit out of their hat this summer. Maybe there's even time left for them to figure something out here. I think that was a blunder in itself.
The Suns are like somebody who remodeled their whole house and then built like a giant movie theater in the house, and then 6 months later we're like, why did we do this movie theater? We should have done bring the contractor back. We've got to change that.
Who was the movie theater in this metaphor?
That was the Nurkic, the whatever that
The
complicated
dominating-
DeAndre Ayton
Yes.
trade where they're like, we got to get out of the Chris Paul business. If we turn him and DeAndre Ayton into Nurkic and Beal, and we do all these swaps that kill all of our leverage, we'll be fine. And then 6 months later, they're like, oh, fuck. Now what do we do? And they're just constantly working on their house, and they've just destroyed their house. Their house has no value left.
I mean,
They paid $10 million and put in $10 million for a house that's now worth $7 million.
is destruction, a 9th seed in the play-in or potentially an 8th? Is that destruction?
Are we sure anymore that that's where they're going to end up? I think it's striking looking at the
so
rest of the
nuts.
bubble teams, all teams that are making moves right now. The Spurs,
Let's talk about
the Warriors.
this. Yeah, because this is part of the Butler conversation.
Definitely.
So if you look at the West, OKC, Memphis, Houston, Denver, and the Lakers, who we're going to talk about. The Lakers are 29-19, and I think arrow pointing up. I think all 5 of those teams are in the playoffs, right? So there's one playoff non-play-in spot left. We have the Clippers at 29 and 22. Looking a little creaky.
Yeah.
Minnesota 28 and 23. They've looked creaky the whole time. We have 4 teams with 25 losses: Dallas, Sacramento, Phoenix, Golden State. So now that's 11. And then we have San Antonio at 22 and 26 with some good vibes. There's 12 teams that have a chance. 4 of those teams are not going to make the playoffs. And I can stare at that list forever. And it's like, who would your 4 be? Like, who's your number one? Would you have San Antonio as your number 1 pick for not making the playoffs?
I think they might be just because they're a little further
they're
behind.
too far behind?
Too far behind with 2 games back sounds insane, but it's more that there are too many teams in front of them. Yeah.
So if they went on like a 5-game winning streak, they'd be in the ballpark.
Yes.
So that would be would you agree with that?
I would say the Spurs are the first ones out for sure.
Okay, so now it gets fun. Who's your number 2 pick for, sorry, the West is too loaded, you're not making the playoffs?
I think it might be the Suns.
I think it is too.
I think it might be the Suns. And I will
probably
say,
go Sacramento, but I understand the Suns' skepticism for sure.
Well, can I give you the FanDuel odds? Oh, see, this is cheating. Spurs plus 370 has the highest odds not to make the playoffs. So they agree with us on that.
yeah. Who do they have second?
And say I ruined my own draft. I should have looked at this after. Sacramento plus 290.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sacramento to me is the clear second pick.
I feel like that's a little bit of Zach LaVine disrespect. You know?
Is it?
I think the Malik Monk, Zach LaVine, Sabonis thing is going to be pretty decent. They brought in Jonas Valanciunas, which is not nothing.
They basically have thrown away the point guard position. But when you watch them, especially in crunch time, it kind of makes sense with Malik like running stuff, and it's not that crazy. And then when they did the Valanciunas trade, I was like, what the fuck is that? That makes no sense to me. You can't play him and Sabonis at the same time. And I was like, wait a second. And I started getting like flashbacks to bad FIBA games. And I'm like, oh, those guys were teammates. And then you go read it, and those guys are boys. They've figured out how to weirdly either play with each other or not, and they got them for free. Yeah. And they just have all these professional and veteran basketball players. I would put Phoenix over them. Phoenix is plus 198 on FanDuel to make the playoffs. I think the Phoenix thing, like that, the stuff you hear like through the grapevine about like the locker room.
Shocking.
Our guy, Coach Bud, maybe a little Donnie Nelson on the Knicks-ish, where it's just like not working out at all. You're not going to believe this, Waz, but it seems like KD might be on another unhappy team. Oh, there's been no track record of that over the years.
That's never happened, literally.
Booker looks just miserable at all times.
Weird year for him.
And then Beal is getting heckled at home games. So I would have them second and Sacramento third. What do you have? What's your order for the top 3?
I would say about the same. I want to put this out there, not because I want it to happen, but because I fear it could happen. If the Dallas Mavericks do not make the playoffs, as a son of Dallas, I would like to be able to go home again, and I fear that the city would be razed to the fucking ground.
So Dallas is minus 110 and Golden State is plus 126. And I got to be honest, I would bet on Golden State to make the playoffs over Dallas. I think this Dallas thing could go bad. We haven't had the 3-week Kyrie injury. I don't trust AD's health. The team's weird. There's big 3 stuff going on, but Clay's in the big 3. It's like we're done. 2020's Clay and the big 3 is out. And also the fan base is so angry and so hostile, and the vibes are just so brutal that I could see it tail spinning. I really could.
I think the theory that you replace Luka's production or lack of production because he's not on the floor with AD, who's like, played at an all-star starter level damn near the whole year, and you become this defensive juggernaut. I think the theory is sound there, specifically in the regular season. If they're just like, a really hard-nosed, like we grind out games defensively team in the regular season. That I don't buy it as a playoff.
They did get the better Martin brother.
Yeah,
they won something.
Martin. Unfortunately, Boston doesn't play in this conference, so I don't know how good Caleb Martin can be. I just think
not what they needed, by the way.
I just think a motivated Jimmy actually fitting a Golden State need, meaning somebody who can do something off the dribble that isn't Steph Curry, and can play defense, even though he's not what he used to be at all. He used to be an ace defender. He's not that, but he's way more than competent. And just the motivational factor. I think the FU Jimmy factor is going to be at a very high level. And
Well, so
Draymond, super competitive guy. I understand why the odds are such.
Golden State 25-24, Dallas 26-24, and my guess is you got to get to maybe 46 wins to be. It's not just about being one of the 6 playoff teams, but you want to be 7 or 8. You don't want to have to win the 2 road games in a row. I want to talk about the Jimmy FU factor. We're going to take a break for the podcast. We're going to keep going on YouTube. So, I've said this before, and I feel really strongly about it. I actually thought that was a great trade for Golden State.
Yeah.
I don't think they gave up really anything. I know they loved Andrew Wiggins, but just fundamentally, it was an NBA 2K trade where you're just cheating the system and you're basically just turning Wiggins into Butler.
Keeping Kuminga out of this thing.
Keeping Kuminga
still
was amazing.
shocked.
The
I'm still
protected
shocked.
pick, whatever.
Yeah.
The key to me would be if you're looking at it going, is Butler still good? Can he still be that guy? Because we didn't see it last year. He kept missing games, missed the playoffs. This year was spotty. And I think I talked about this more on a pod, but like 5-6 weeks ago, he had a game in Detroit when he was just awesome.
Yeah.
And that was, you can go back, you can watch it on League Pass. That's all you need to see. This was not one of those, oh, Jimmy made some threes and had a good game. Like, he was fucking awesome. He was pissed off. I think he was mad at Miami. I think this was his like trade value audition tape. And he just ran amok in this game. And I just think that's what he's going to do in Golden State. I don't know if it's going to last 2 months. I don't know if it's going to last a year and 2 months. I think 2 years from now, it could be a catastrophe for them where they're just like, oh my God, we have Draymond and this guy. What the hell? But short term with Curry's window, you got to do it.
A couple things that I love about the deal. One, it pays deference to the end of the Steph era. So Jimmy's deal basically coincides with, Steph's deal.
Mm-hmm.
2, Jimmy Butler is a maniac. He's going to be extremely motivated. And he's an upgrade to what Andrew, you can say whatever you want. He is a clear talent upgrade to Andrew Wiggins, sort of sometimes here, sometimes there, whatever. And then 3rd, I like that it just clarifies the Kuminga stuff because with these young guys, we see it all the time. When they're in these trade rumors for an entire season, it's like, all right, that's now been clarified. You're going to be here. This is what the team looks like. Let's go. I'm really high on this for Golden State.
Unless Kuminga is traded in the next hour.
Which he might be. But even preserving him to potentially include him in another deal is important. And I think the Jimmy Wiggins comp, like Andrew Wiggins has had a perfectly fine season. I don't mean to diminish it, but Jimmy is a totally different level of creator. And most importantly, he is a go-to scorer, as we've discussed, but also a point trigger man for a lot of the Steph Curry off-ball stuff in a way that Wiggins is just not comfortable doing. And so now you have another person who can do that in addition to Draymond, in addition to Pajemski if you have him in that role. Like, you have someone who can actually make some plays for the way Golden State wants to play.
Yeah, there's the crunch time piece, but there's also the every 4 games, he's just going to be awesome in a game. Right now, this Warriors team, unless Steph is awesome, you saw it last night against Utah. They can just suck for 5 minutes and all of a sudden blow a game. They've blown a lot of uncharacteristically close games. I'm going to say this knocking on wood. I love Steph. He's at a different point of his career.
Yeah.
He can still hit the heights, but he can't do it nearly as consistently.
You can't put a team on his back.
No, it's not.
Possession
2022
after
final
possession,
Steph
come
is
on.
not. He's at a different point of his career. He just is. But I still think he could be a really great piece of a good team. With Butler, the question for me is that Detroit thing that he did that I saw, is that like a once every 2 weeks thing? Could he dial that up? Could he carry them? Because they're going to kind of need to jump on his back. And then when Kuminga comes back, if they keep him, and now they have some scoring off the bench.
Yeah.
They have less guys in the team, which I think was a weird thing for them too. They had like 12, 13 guys that needed to play now that they've got the numbers down. But I just thought fundamentally it was an awesome trade. I still don't feel great about it as a basketball fan, but I just think that's we just have these moments where this guy who's making 52 and then 52 next year, it's not even the final year of his deal. He has a contract next year with a player option he can opt into, and he's just decided, I don't like my situation anymore. I'm going to torpedo it.
Yeah.
I really feel like whenever the next CBA comes up, how do they figure out a wrinkle for this? Because if you're like a Miami fan, you just going to be like, what the fuck just happened? We just turned Jimmy Butler into Andrew Wiggins.
I mean, it's like if you're playing a game of chicken against a guy who's willing to die, like, how do you win?
Right?
Like I just don't know.
He's Dom Toretto in every Fast and Furious
he's not
movie.
gonna
He's like,
flinch.
I'm coming right at you.
He's willing to do it. So like, how do you win versus that? And and again, I personally wouldn't have carried it the way Jimmy did. The way he's obviously looking at it is like this is literally his last payday ever in the NBA, major payday. And he's looking at it like I have to do whatever I have to do to make sure I secure that win. And unfortunately it got ugly. And I can understand feeling entitled. It
was like got disfiguring.
Yeah, it was bad. It was
like Vanilla Sky Tom Cruise face level
it was tough
ugly.
to look at. And I've been carrying Jimmy Water just in the sense that he's overachieved. He was an A+ player for Miami for what they did when they got him, what the expectation was and what he actually delivered. And for him to feel like, why won't you place faith in me that I'm gonna over deliver again as I've done my entire tenure year? So like him being like, this is a slap in the face.
That's a tough one to say though when you're just missing games left and right last
true.
year. Which I think was Miami's problem. It's like, dude, we're not. First of all, you're under contract for this year and next year, and play more. But then Riley did the old guy thing.
That's
what he does though.
He did it to LeBron two days before LeBron left,
Yeah.
and LeBron took it personally. I kind of love every time he does it, but the question is, do you need an old crazy guy running your basketball franchise? Because he clearly doesn't. He gives no shits anymore.
He does not, but it's also not a coincidence that like every star leaves Miami kind of feeling like this.
Yeah.
By the end, it's
Yeah.
always ugly. There's no peaceful transitions of power. with
Even
the
Hassan
Miami Heat.
Whiteside, he's like, I just wish it ended better. So they also got Golden State's first, which is top 10 protected for 2 years in a row, and then unprotected. I'm not scared. I still have Steph during that home run. Poor Dennis Schroeder.
Man.
Can the guy just find a house to
Unfortunate
live in?
remarks about
Yeah, that was
trade
tough.
culture.
Yeah.
Because last time I checked, every professional sport has trades.
Oh my God, yeah.
But he's kind of stuck in this new rule with the apron, where if you're over 12.8 million, nobody who's over a certain apron can buy you out.
I think it's if you're over any apron at all, first or second, you can't.
I thought
sign
there was like
buyout guy over the
a
mid-level.
12.8 million level too for like certain. So there's like 8
It's-
teams he just can't even get bought out and go to.
Basically, if your contract is just over the non-taxpayer full mid-level, which his is like by a hair, just barely, then you can't sign with any apron team as a buyout guy.
One thing I didn't get with Miami, because there was a world where they just get Wiggins, Kyle Anderson, and Schroeder
It feels like they basically just said we don't want.
we'd
Dennis
rather have
Schroeder.
cap space.
But it's telling when a team like the Heat, who say what you will about their personality management,
Yeah.
they're pretty good talent evaluators, and they have just decided thanks but no thanks on Dennis Schroeder. Like,
Well,
that
I'll just tell
registers.
you, my dad and I talking last night. Miami just has a slew of guys who killed the Celtics, and Dennis Schroeder kills the Celtics for some reason. Wiggins had a lot of success against them in 22. Kyle Anderson's just weird in general, and we were like, I hope they don't keep all these dudes, because if we see them in like a 2-7 series,
You really worried about this version of the Heat?
I'm always worried about Miami. I'm always worried about them.
Okay.
Never not worried about the Heat.
So right now, the Heat are 3 games out of the 4th seed in the East.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is their new rotation. They got Tyler Hero and Terry Rozier more or less running point.
Scary Terry.
Duncan Robinson, they brought in Davion Mitchell from the Raptors.
Okay.
Another guy who I've always kind of liked.
Ringer
I wanted to
alumni,
see
by
him
the
on
way.
a decent team.
Sure. Andrew Wiggins, of course. Haywood Highsmith, Jaime Jaquez. Bam's been playing the 4 with Khalil Ware, Nikola Jovic.
Ware's been good for like a month.
Been quite good.
Ware is very good.
And Kyle Anderson. Tell me that is not the most Miami Heat-ass team you've ever heard.
It's
Kyle
definitely-
Anderson's one of the most Miami Heat guys.
They're definitely going
ever.
to be an annoying team to play against. I just think this version of Boston is just.
I'm not
too-
worried about them for Boston. Yeah.
it's too
Okay,
much.
that makes 2 of you. I don't want to play Miami. They fucking pulled Jedi mind trick shit against
Yeah.
Boston.
They definitely have a bunch of solid rotation guys. It's just like, who individually are you scared of in a series?
Who do you think? What do you think Terry Rozier would bet on? Too soon? Come on. He was absolved. Stop
This
it.
segment is sponsored by FanDuel.
The Miami has cap space now. They're under the tax. They have a trade exception, and maybe they'll do one more thing before the 45 minutes from now deadline. I don't know, man. The way Hero's playing, Bam's been playing better.
Yeah.
Where out of nowhere feels like they have a little bit more of an identity. They have some shooting. We'll see if they can get more from Rozier, who's been really bad ever since they made that trade. But just as a sneaky, you're down 2-1 in the series against them, wondering what happened. I still feel like they're on the radar for me. Nobody else in the East is. That's the only team. Once you get past the 4 seed, that's the only team I'd be like a little worried about in a series. Do you have anybody else?
I think the Bucks are still interesting enough, and I think the Magic, if they ever get their shit together, are still interesting enough. I guess they've got a lot to figure out offensively, though.
I guess the Bucks, now that they got Kuzma, because he was red hot. I mean, he was playing great this season.
Can we talk about
that? Apologist.
He was doing great this season.
What does the apology sound like these days?
I've never seen plus minuses that could get to like minus
guys,
59.
He hasn't played on an actual NBA team for 5 years. This is year 5 in NBA Siberia.
He had his choice. That was his choice. He had options to leave
Coulda
and play
did the
for
Dallas
competitive
thing.
teams, for example.
Fair. Maybe he was looking out for a better championship situation. I just think in 2020 on the Lakers, he was the ultimate role guy.
Is he really doing this?
Yes.
It's 2020.
He was the ultimate role guy. Again, the last 2 good players he played with were Brad Beal and who?
Is
Bob Carrington?
Rob, is this happening right now?
I don't
Listen.
At this point,
a defensive Kyle Kuzma monologue?
Great cutter, not a great shooter, but can make open shots when called upon. Okay.
How about terrible shooter? He's shooting
He's
like
not
27% from 3
I would
this
say
year.
the shot quality has been horrible on a team that's going nowhere.
He has shown no professional pride whatsoever this season.
He's been actively bad.
He looks
actively bad.
He looks like he is on autopilot.
I just think it's different when you play on a team that's actually playing for something.
Absolutely.
I think he's in the running for worst player of the season.
Wow.
Like if we were doing LVP, if you've actually watched Wizards games, I think he's one of the worst players I've seen this season. Can he just flip the switch and put it back? I don't know.
I mean, it's hard to be that inefficient, that passive aggressive, and that much just straight chilling all the time. Like it's really a rare skill.
The Wizards basketball situation is hell.
It's bad.
It's horrible.
Is it that bad? Like they have a bunch of young guys. They have Jordan Poole playing actually pretty well this year. I don't know. Is it that bad? You're a veteran on the team. You didn't want them to trade you last year. They're trying to trade you to Dallas. You're like, I want to be here.
I'll put it this way: like this wouldn't be a problem if what the Bucks weren't giving up is a player who is very important to their team and Chris Middleton, who just can't do it at that level that they need him to do anymore.
He can't move. He's got 2 bad ankles.
But what they needed was somebody who could do some Chris Middleton adjacent things. And Kyle Kuzma is closer to Taurean Prince than he is to healthy Chris Middleton. That's a big problem.
But was there a Chris Middleton-esque guy out there?
No, and not in trading Chris in his current form. Like that's the quandary
Chris
that the Bucks
Middleton
found themselves
this year,
in.
Guys, has been a non-entity.
It's been an occasional entity.
There was a stretch 2 weeks ago when he had 0 points in 2 of 3 games, like goose eggs.
It was a lot of alternating.
But somehow he's shooting like 45% from 3 or some crazy thing.
Kuzma can play 4 for these guys next to Giannis or next to Brook if you need him to. And again, like I think that role play and junkyard dog guy is still in there.
We're recording this.
One last thing, because I think the Kuzma thing is going to work. When Team USA was assembled last summer, Kuzma, who's like an outspoken Twitter guy, he's like, yo, these guys are big NBA players and names, but somebody's going to have to fill a role. Somebody's going to have to do these dirty work things. And Devin Booker, like, famously said, I will, or whatever, quote tweeted or whatever. This is Kuzma explains to you, like, I understand what it means to be on a team that's trying to do something meaningful.
It was 5 years ago. Dwight Howard was on that team.
Look.
Rajon Rondo was on that team. COVID had just happened.
I think Doc, as a coach,
Joe Biden was alive.
Is the kind of guy who will curse you out for not doing the right thing in terms of playing your role, playing next to Giannis.
I'll go the other way. I think
matter.
Doc's going to hate Kyle Kuzma.
I think he's going to
he's going to be like, I can't believe we traded for this guy. Why
I
didn't
think
my
he's going to like
tell
him.
me?
And in 3-4 weeks when this thing is
all right,
actually
so we disagree.
working,
Rob, you get the tiebreaker vote.
It's not going to go well.
Yeah.
He's Kyle Kuzma.
Wow.
Here's the thing. When you approach a trade of this magnitude, and this is a huge trade for the Bucks, they've been waiting to either trade Chris Middleton or Brook Lopez for the right move that came along. This is not the right move.
I'm going in our YouTube chat. Thanks to everybody who's sending questions. Rap Stallion says, hey, if it weren't for Kuzma, we might not have the nickname Din Shitty. I forgot about that. I forgot about the Kuzma Dinwiddie feud. So people want to know if they can trade Jordan Poole. He's playing pretty well this year.
He's also I want to say, the elder statesman of their rotation right now.
So is Jordan Poole a Orlando Magic candidate?
I don't think he's an Orlando Magic player personally, but
Does Orlando know they're allowed to make trades?
Well, we're going to soon find out.
I think they did the Vucevic trade, and they're just like, mic drop. No more trades for us. We did it.
They probably should be a little bit more desperate
And
in
GMs,
terms of getting some offense
they fall
together.
in love with their young guys. So it's not that surprising that they still think, all of these guys are going to come through in a major way. Jalen Suggs going down, I think, is just underrated in
It's
how
really hurt them
It turned
a lot.
out he was their MVP. Who knew? I thought it was Paolo.
Super important to their team.
So with the Milwaukee, that Kuzma trade, which is really a money trade, they have to waste their first-round pick they took last year, A.J. Johnson, got under the apron, which raises the question, why did the CBA suck so much? How did the league just turn into just people trying to get under the apron, make financial moves, save tax money? How did they – I know it's like on the one hand, you have the NBA, the owners, Adam Silver, probably the smartest lawyers on the planet. And then on the other side, you have like a couple players, some dude who took the job because they thought it'd be cool to get a picture with LeBron. And they get worked every time. But this is disgusting.
It's two things.
It's terrible.
So nobody's going to convince me that this doesn't cost players money. People say, well, no, the basketball revenue is guaranteed and teams have to spend to a floor. And like,
Wait, but
cool.
those are literal facts, though.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
Yeah.
But like teams going beyond, above and beyond
Sure.
what is called for is more money in the player pool. And now teams will just say, we don't have that option
I see what you're
because
saying.
of these things. And the reason why the players agree to it is that the new CBA kicked in and they 2x the money. So when you're making all this money, it's like, why are we going to bat for this? We're richer than we've ever been by 2.5 times X. And so that situation converged to let the owners get this. And it's literally so that Joe Lacob could forever just be like, he his first 5-6 years just always spending way over the cap and always going into luxury tax. Now he could go to his fan base without any retribution and say, guys, I'm second aproned out.
Yeah, my hands are tied.
My hands are tied.
So what can a guy do?
The owners just literally like,
OKC
God,
is
we're never
like,
gonna have
there's
to do
an
this
apron?
again. Oh my goodness. Don't
That's the
even get me
thing. Like,
started.
ultimately, what you're describing is in some way this way the league has been for a long time. It was just they were mostly trying to dodge the tax. Now, even if you are above the tax, there are more lines to dodge and harsher penalties.
I've never seen it be the number one reason for this many trades before. We've always had like financial implications and stuff, but this is different. You have 8, 9, 10 teams that are just like, we're doing this because it gets us under apron 1, apron 2, apron 3. I also think the fans don't want to take the time to understand it. They don't care. It's confusing. And it turns into this have-not of basketball conversation.
And nobody can explain to me what problem it was solving. What was solved by this in terms of selling it?
Yeah.
Well, it seems like they were. So I talked about this. We talked about this, about the Zach LaVine thing, where it's harder to trade Zach LaVine. So Zach LaVine then goes, all right, I guess I'll roll my sleeves up and I'm going to have an awesome season for Chicago. It's not like I can go anywhere. But for every Zach LaVine, there's been 10 other ways that this went wrong. And it just seems like there's more player movement. There's more guys getting bought out. There's more roster turnover. We had another trade, by the way.
What do we get?
The Clippers have traded Terrence Mann, a beloved Clipper guy forever, who always had the T-Man game, and Bones Highland, who couldn't have been more available, for Bogdan Bogdanovic and 3 second-round picks. Now we're talking. The Clips needed like a heat checky, off the bench kind of guy like this.
Yeah.
I was really hoping Denver would get Bogdanovic because he has the Jokic thing. But as you know, Denver's not allowed to make trades or spend money. I think they're a 0 apron team.
Look, the first week of the season, the Strouder talk, even the Christian Brown stuff, I was like, Zeke Naji made a couple threes the other day, and I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, I was just like, guys, like, I get it. You love your young guys and whatever.
You say this like you're not talking up Julian Strother in the group
No,
chat.
I'm just
group
saying
chat.
now.
I have
I'm
the
like,
receipts.
damn. I'm like, damn, Strother is kind of better than I thought he was. So maybe they will be vindicated, but you're right, Bill. I would have loved to see them do something like a bogey thing. I was excited when they were in the Zach LaVine sweepstakes, allegedly. Like, I was happy for that kind
this
of thing.
happened in the Celtics 5 years ago, where they either have giant contracts or small contracts and no in between, and you can't get the $16 to $20 million guy because you literally can't put the contracts together.
Yep.
Bogdanovich on the Clippers.
I mean, love the pickup for them. It is a buy low thing, and we need to acknowledge that. Bogey is having the worst season of maybe his entire professional life, including pre-NBA. Just has not had it in
He's
the way
been
that
an
you would
underrated
expect.
post-Olympics.
His health on a day-to-day basis. They need what Bogdanovich can provide. And so if this is the cost, absolutely why not?
Can I read you his stats?
I'm a little worried to even hear them.
10 points a game.
Yeah. The shooting percentages are bad.
Well, you know how normally 50, 40, 90 is the standard for percentages? He's a 37, 30, 88 guy.
Not what you want.
7.6 PER. It's like nearing Bronny James level of
God.
sorry, Wes. But last year 17 a game.
Yeah.
And
I feel okay being
I
a
like
Bogey
him.
apologist, not a Kyle
yeah,
Kuzma
I always feel with him like first of all, Atlanta could not have been more of a wrong team for him. I don't know if Trae Young is the catalyst for him. I want to see him on a team that's like, you're coming in, you're going to play 8 minutes. We're going to run plays for you.
Yeah.
We're going to run you
Ultimate
off picks,
green light.
Go nuts, do your thing. And then for the Hawks, Terrence Mann, another long swing guy.
Yeah.
There's some Clipper fans in my life who are like, when are they going to unleash this guy?
Never really happened. Never really
Never
got
really
off
happened.
the ground.
Bones.
Bones? What about him?
He is a player in the NBA, that's for sure.
He's a player that made a lot more sense 30 years ago.
Back when I was just, again, applauding everything the Nuggets did, I just swore Bones was going to be
He was the truth.
a person.
But then he failed an IQ test. He wasn't happy playing with Nikola
Nope.
Jokic,
Yeah.
which is like the number one IQ test.
he was complaining that he wasn't getting enough tick on a team that, like,
Yeah.
That had Nikola
he
Jokic.
thought he was better than Jamal Murray.
Yeah.
tough. And now he's about to be on his third team.
Almost borderline, we could replace Deion Waiters in the rewatchables with the Bones
Bones
Highland
Highland.
heat check. It's like, almost like a personality heat check. All right, so Atlanta.
They're really gutting this thing. I guess, it makes sense in the way that the future of their team is more Jalen Johnson, Zachary Risacher oriented, right?
I like Risacher.
I think there's something there that works. Do you have to do all of this housekeeping right now? I don't exactly know why it would need to happen right now.
Yeah, I get I guess the idea that they're not keeping their pick. It's like, why are you losing and giving them a better pick? It's like, that's gone. It's out the door. Like, we got to do what's right for our
I've
team.
heard this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like we already lost the pick.
It's
What do we
over.
care if it's 4,
Yeah, it's
12,
fine.
15? I would personally care. I would be like, oh my God.
The spite piece. You
Well-
got to stick it to them.
We've seen this happen in the past. Like I remember the Clippers that one year when they traded their number one to get rid of Baron Davis's contract. Like, we're just gonna eat it, and then it turned into Kyrie Irving. Like you just never know. I
tough.
just wouldn't want to find out. Speaking of teams that we don't know what the hell they're doing, Toronto traded for Brandon Ingram.
What is this?
I did a tweet where I did the power rankings of teams that I don't know what you're doing, and I didn't put Toronto in the top 5 because I haven't known what they're doing for like over a year. They just every year trade their pick. They get a guy who's kind of likable. He doesn't seem to make sense with any of the other players they have, and I have no idea why you would trade Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, and a pretty mediocre first. That's Indiana's pick.
Yeah.
To then pay Brandon Ingram when you're already overpaying Scotty Barnes, you're overpaying quickly. RJ Barrett's making a shitload. I just don't understand their team.
It's tough. I remember when Masai was, he was like a GM free agent, and it was like, is he going to New York? Is he going to this?
Could he save
Blah,
the
blah, blah.
Knicks?
And there was rumors that he got equity in the Raptors and all of this stuff, and like to use all of that cachet and literal equity and goodwill to do this with the Raptors since he re-signed with them. It's just so rudderless and directionless. And I get it. Brandon Ingram's a good player. I understand why you would want him on the team, but like, what is the idea or the theory of the Raptors? Like,
I genuinely don't. Like, they're a team that wants to play a very loose, freewheeling, like democratic style.
that's not Brandon Ingram.
That is not how Brandon Ingram plays basketball. If you did want a big forward to put next to Scotty Barnes, why did you trade the better one in Pascal Siakam? And like the Siakam comparison is inevitable because they're giving up that Indiana pick. They're giving up Bruce Brown. They're giving up Kelly Olynyk, who I want to say was involved like tangentially in that deal in a follow-up with Utah. And so now you traded Pascal Siakam for an expiring Brandon Ingram. Ochai Agbaji was in that deal. Who else? The pick that became Jacoby Walter. That's your Pascal Siakam haul. Why didn't you just keep Pascal Siakam if that's where you were going to end up?
And Brandon Ingram's been available since June. Like back in the
So-
days when we had video stores and you would just stroll by the new release section, you'd be like, domestic disturbance with John Travolta and Vince Vaughn. I don't think so. And then you'd walk around for 15 more minutes and then you'd pick up the VHS tape again. Travolta and Vince Vaughn. And then you'd stroll around again. Like that's Brandon Ingram. People were just strolling by the new release aisle for him for 9 months.
So here's the justification. It's like, Brandon Ingram is going to feel a way about New Orleans not paying him because he feels like he's accomplished stuff there. And there's like,
so much stuff.
There's a sort of entitlement there. But then, you go a whole year and a half basically where nobody wants you. I think he comes into that contract negotiation with the Raptors with a little bit more humility. I'm sure that's probably what they're banking on, where he doesn't think he's a 5-year maximum contract player.
Yeah. I think it'll probably be a shorter term deal.
It'd probably be like a 3-year.
But are you telling, I'm just seeing a future where they pay him upwards of $40 million a season. And to do what? He is a
dynamic duo, him and Scotty Barnes.
He doesn't fit with Barnes. He's hurt all the time.
Him and RJ, they occupy the same area of the court. Like,
he has
I'm already frustrated.
He has a top 5 body of like, oh man, you're gonna get hurt. Just when you see him in person, he's really so skinny.
Doesn't space.
No.
Which the Raptors need.
He will occasionally talk himself into taking spot up threes, but occasionally.
Here's the red flag for me beyond all the other red flags. So you had Golden State, who was definitely strolling around that new release video store over and over again. Steve Kerr, who coached Brandon Ingram on one of those FIBA teams.
No shot.
And by the end, Brandon Ingram's like, he's sick. He can't play in the last 2 games because he was just out of the rotation. And Golden State, who desperately needed anything, and this was like the layup trade of all time. Give up nothing for Brandon Ingram. And they were like, we're good. We're not doing that. And then Miami, they're sitting there too. Hey, we can turn whatever. Maybe we'll turn. And Miami's like, we're also good. And then you have Toronto, who's like, we don't think we can get free agents ever. So this is how we get free agents. And then they talk themselves into it. I don't like it.
I don't like it at all.
The talent doesn't fit at all. But, again, another lanky, rangy guy who they love, but he's never used his tools for good.
It's fake size, and he doesn't guard.
Never,
and
ever.
And he's ball stopper too.
He absolutely is ball stopper.
Ball stoppiest.
Would there be a worse team to be like the 5th guy?
Than this
Meaning
one?
you never get the ball passed to you?
It's like you're the Agbaji. You're like, fuck. Oh my God. I'm just gonna be in the corner over here, guys.
Agbaji seems like he has a good head on his shoulders. He seems well adjusted.
He's having a good year. I was wondering if he was like a sneaky trade deadline piece.
Frisky lately,
especially on D. They've guarded really well.
Well, their fans are frisky. They're like always taking everything personally. I mean, they did win the title in 2019.
They have a lot to take personally. There's reasons to boo the national anthem now.
Right. 2019, they won the title, and since then, Masai's just been on a heater. It's like when Obama finished the presidency. He's like, I'm opening a production company and I'm playing golf. Masai's like, I'm going to trade for Brandon Ingram.
Shout out to our colleague Danny Chow, who flagged this is now 4 consecutive trade deadlines where the Raptors have traded a first for a guy who's about to be a free agent.
Because they feel like they can't sign a free agent?
I guess.
Did Danny Chow like this trade?
I can't imagine.
Doubtful.
I can't imagine.
I'm going to say Brandon Ingram is not a Danny Chow type of player.
Doesn't strike me as one.
And then the New Orleans side of that trade, just quickly. So they're down to, as assets, Trey Murphy, the best player on the team, who I think is their only untouchable.
He's been really good.
Zion Williamson, wild card, could get traded next half hour. CJ McCollum, always in trade rumors. Herb Jones, Hawkins, Missy, Alvarado, and DeJounte Murray, who will not be playing for at least a year.
Torn Achilles.
That's brutal.
And their first-round picks are fine, but they're whatever.
Yeah.
They used to have look at all those first-round picks. They've kind of taken all of them. But you go back to that AD trade.
Dude, I go back to 2019 all the time.
Well, but look at all the people in this trade. DeAndre Hunter, Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, who I think was way more of an asset back then than, he got hurt. Josh Hart, Mo Wagner.
I forgot Mo Wagner was
22 first, which became Dyson Daniels. The 23 swap didn't apply, and then the 25 first pick. It was a lot when you look back at they did get a lot of players.
Dude, Lonzo,
I mentioned this because none of those guys are on the team.
Yes, that's the
none
thing.
of them.
I've said this a couple of times. I remember it's being at Summer League in 2019 after they traded AD, draft Zion, who looks like he's going to be the next LeBron James.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing Griff at Summer League, and there was an aura emanating from him. Everybody wanted to bend this guy's ears. Like, my God, Griff, he's done
You got
it.
Zion and a million picks.
They are on their way. They got all these picks, and their young guys are cost control and blah and this, and there's so much versatility. And oh my, New Orleans is it. And what's come of this AD trade? One frisky
A
first
ton of
round
assets
series.
that look awesome on paper, but no longer play it in the
Yeah,
team.
it didn't quite work out.
And the Lonzo thing was the thing that I think hurt them the most because I actually really think Lonzo, and we're seeing it like we're seeing this
Lonzo
diminished version of him in Chicago, who's
And
still
he's
like a
still
really
a good
additive
player,
player.
man.
And he just got an extension, 2 years,
Yeah.
$20 million, which is nice little turnaround for him.
Yeah, but going forward, I don't know what this team is. I don't know how long they're going to be in New Orleans. I don't know how long Zion's going to be in the team. I don't know what the plan would be going forward with this roster. And the Murray
What do you
trade
do
is
with
catastrophic. I would have traded him already.
Same.
But the
I don't think
Pelican-
it's ever happening in New Orleans, so you just have to accept that. It's like we all said how Jimmy Butler for Wiggins is a trade that makes no sense on paper, but if you're Miami, you don't have Jimmy Butler anymore. You have the ghost. You
Yeah.
have zombie Jimmy Butler, who's not an asset. So
Yeah.
now you turn him into a guy who can play defense and rebound and hit some threes.
I think that's where you get into really tough places when you don't actually have the ideal version of the player anymore. And the Pelicans have not had the ideal version of Brandon Ingram for quite some time, mostly because of injury. But they held on to him too long in the same way that the Raptors held on to Siakam too long. Like you can see this chain of events of some of these teams that are feeling pinched where they don't move their guys when they need to move them.
And then the perils of the max contract era is that when you have your own guy and he's clearly one of your best players, there's a pressure to pay him a max deal, which he'll be in the same pay grade as guys that are just clearly much better. Bona fide all-stars in Ingram and even Siakam. Like, these are high-quality players. Are they max players? But the way the system is set up, like, you have to pay these guys in accordance to this freaking pay scale.
Yeah.
Well, think about this. We knew somebody was going to suck in the West heading into this season. We're like, there's just too many good teams. There's too much talent. Who is going to be the out of nowhere this team sucks team? New Orleans has played 15 games and won 12. That would not have been on my bingo card.
No.
Like, they have so much talent.
We thought they
you
were,
could feel
like-
something stinky maybe with them, the way they're hitting the Trey Murphy thing, Zion, you never know. But this is 12 wins is nuts.
We thought they were clearly going to be above play-in range. Like, they'd be in the 6, maybe even
their
5
over-under
range.
was like 45.5.
Yeah.
So
We were
it is
pretty
lower
hard
now.
for, like, as idiots on New Orleans coming into this year.
We are going to take a break for the podcast. Keep going on the YouTube stream. So Phoenix going forward, the Durant piece of the Butler trade, which we did not discuss. What did you think of him being like, I'm shutting this down. I don't want to go to Golden State. If you trade for me, I'm going to be unhappy, because that's confirmed. I heard all the same stuff everybody else had. It seemed like on Tuesday that was going to be a 3-way trade. I think it was really close, and it basically came down to, are we sure KD is on board with this?
Yeah.
And the feedback was he's not. He doesn't want to go back. So, Rob, why you're in the Bay?
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't you want to go back?
I
What
can't,
was
I
it?
can't imagine a single reason why he might not want to run back that experience
Probably
again.
a Draymond thing.
I
Probably.
could imagine that being a potential holdup.
Yeah.
I mean,
A Steve Kerr piece, the Draymond piece, this will
think-
be bad for my legacy of.
No.
I think him coming back to the Bay, if there ever was like a full circle moment for that, it would require Kevin Durant to have a dramatic reimagining of who he is as a player and a person and the way he fits into the basketball universe. And I give Kevin Durant credit for this in a way. Like, he has a very firm and fixed understanding of who he is.
Yeah.
And it is not the guy who needs to go crawling back to the Warriors to win again. And that leads you to some places like Phoenix with this particular roster sometimes. But it didn't really fit with the KD that we know that he would want to do something like that.
And it doesn't fit because it would have made sense basketball-wise, which is just generally not what KD does. He doesn't do the basketball thing, except for Golden State. Like, that's been the only time that he put the thing on the floor first. And he didn't really care for the results in terms of his own personal happiness, as he said previously.
I went back and looked at his 2019 game log splits because he was really good to start the year. And then after the Draymond thing, I forgot, like,
Oh, yeah.
he was like 21 a game, 33% from three. And then in the playoffs, he ran
yeah.
back up and he was awesome. But it was damaging for months.
Yeah.
And I just, You know, that's what's so funny when you see these stuff now, these podcasts or these guys do these fake things together, and it's like Draymond and KD, no, we're good. It's like, there's no way they're good.
No.
Like, KD's never forgiving whatever
No.
happened, whatever was said.
No.
And there's that piece. There's probably a Steve Kerr piece. But from a basketball standpoint, if I was him, I would have rather been on Golden State. I just like, it's a no-brainer. I don't want to be in this Phoenix team.
And
this
it's
crazy
like,
owner, no picks.
It's almost, you fit the thing like a glove. Like, obviously, KD's good enough to do all the ball movement stuff, but that's not what Golden State would be asking him to do.
Yeah.
They'd be asking him to be KD.
Yep.
Again, just get the ball and cook people, and Steph and everybody else will work around it. But again, I can understand not wanting to go back and do the same thing and wanting to maybe, if Phoenix isn't what you ultimately end up doing in terms of signing an extension with, exploring some different option that
Sure.
makes you, a lot happier. And I think Phoenix's whole thing has always been with like trading all these picks and this and the future's done. Like, if we want to, we'll do a fire sale for KD and Booker, try to get a bunch of picks back and just move on with our lives. That's what it feels like the Phoenix thing is.
It felt like this could have been the first time in Kevin Durant's life where he didn't really get to pick. And maybe he just would have gotten moved somewhere. But then when he was so vocal and made it so clear he didn't want to play for Golden State, I think it changed the math a little bit. Ultimately, I think the only way it would have worked for KD as a Warrior again is if it was also a more elaborate LeBron going to Golden State thing. They would probably have
Just
to
the
happen
old
over
guys.
where it's not.
Honestly, just put a bullet in my head. I just wouldn't be able to handle it.
Well, I think you're probably bailed out on that just because the
The
timelines
last thing
were
the
so
league
different.
needs is let's talk about these old guys some more. Can we bring in Conspiracy Bill for a second?
Let's do it.
I thought he was already in the room with us.
No, we bring him in.
Okay.
I'll put a hoodie on. Conspiracy Bill is here. Are we sure there's not lingering bitterness with KD for the Achilles injury and maybe how that was handled by the team?
In which direction? Like him toward Golden State?
Yeah.
People don't remember this, Bill. That's why you're Bill Simmons.
I'm not Bill Simmons. I'm Conspiracy
Conspiracy
Bill.
Bill.
Conspiracy Bill is here.
But that's why
I'm just asking. I have no inside information. Please don't aggregate this. I just always thought it was a little weird. He hurt his calf, came back, and blew out his Achilles.
people don't remember, and I was like, at the time, there was a bit of a whisper campaign.
Yep.
Of what's up with KD? What's taking him so long?
Yeah.
He should be back already. Like, he looks good when we see him in practice, when we see him in the gym, blah, blah, blah.
He's going to be a free agent. He doesn't want to risk it.
And it was a whisper campaign, and he came back and then tore his freaking Achilles. And Bob Myers is crying at the news conference and all of that. And I always thought that was like, man, damn, we did kind of
right.
say he was, loafing and taking too long.
Another great appearance from Conspiracy Bill. That's a great. What a cameo
Might
by
be
him.
something to it.
I wonder what the people think on the chat. I'm going to look in the chat for this. Oh, man. That really got the chat going. Oh, people want a 90-minute Conspiracy Bill. So maybe I just put out the hood every time.
I'm sure you've gotten a few of the conspiracies with the
That one?
Luka situation.
Oh.
It's out of control.
We're saving all Luka Laker stuff for part 2.
Okay.
We're on trade deadline watch. We have Cody Zeller and Houston's 2028 second round pick going
Cody
to
Zeller's
the
still in the
Rockets so Atlanta can get under the luxury tax.
Okay.
Sources tell Freep Sports that Dennis Schroeder will end up with the Pistons as
Love
part
that.
of the massive Jimmy Butler deal.
Love
Yeah.
that.
If I'm the Pistons, I'm just getting a little frisky.
Yeah.
Could I get the 6th seed? I have an awesome player. I have a team that is like tough and likes playing with each other and like gets a little aggro
They're
in
not
some of these
afraid to
games.
get chippy with
I have the
guys.
scariest guy in the league in Beef Stew. Why not?
They also ended up with, who did they get in the Butler deal? I want to say it was Lindy Waters and Josh Richardson. I want to say ended
Yeah,
up with.
Josh Richardson.
Maybe not players of import for them.
No.
Although Lindy Waters, I could see actually giving them some minutes and some stretch at times. I could see him giving them some
Here's a
decent
fun
minutes.
one. In the Bogdanovich trade, the Clippers got 3 second-round picks back, including their own pick.
We love.
We're
a pick
trading
return.
so many second-round picks. Teams are now reacquiring their own picks.
You just
Can I-
you don't love any pick like your own pick.
Yeah,
Different
so
relationship.
we finally got it back. They should do the welcome home jumbotron thing.
for the
Do you think we should have third-round picks?
2025
Should we have third-round
second-round
picks?
pick.
Who are we drafting in the third round?
I don't know. Like these teams love trading these picks. Then they could just put like
Just
they've
more stuff
acquired
to trade.
4 third-round picks and a second-round pick.
More bites at the apple, Bill.
if we save the Lakers things for part 2,
Yeah.
Sure.
what else jumped from the trade deadline for you?
I mean, the Fox thing, I think, was cool in a couple of ways because a lot of people felt like the Spurs should hold out for a better superstar. And I said this on our podcast, it's almost like your friend who like is addicted to Tinder and is like a nice girl who wants him and wants to settle with him, but he's like, yeah, but I got these 5 other hot chicks on Tinder that might want to mess with me. It's like, no, get with the girl that's like a nice girl, good-looking girl, wants to be with you. Settle up with that one.
Do you
And
think
I
the
think
Waz
Spurs-
of 10 years ago would have made this take? You know,
Of course not.
No. This is personal
course
development.
Of course not.
Very mature version
Yeah,
of
I think
You're
the
very buttoned up
Spurs-
today. You got the
Spurs
cardigan going?
locking in on not just De'Aaron Fox as a talent, but like temperamentally. He's a Spurs kind of player in terms of his headspace, how his approach to the game. He's just not an NBA diva. He's about the right things. And I thought they were smart to just be like, you know what? It's not going to cost us a ton to bring this guy in. Yes, some people might look at the extension like, oh, you're going to pay him $48 million?
I would. I think he's a top 30 guy.
100%.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
To me, I
Also,
look at
who he wanted to be in a small market
Come
Texas
on.
team, which is
Go
pretty
get
rare.
him.
Yep.
Go get him. And I'm happy they did that.
I thought it was like, the more I stared at it, it was like 62 cents on the dollar for what they paid. I can't believe Sohan or Vassell were not in the trade, and I don't know what the Bulls. The more I stared at the Bulls part of
Their
it,
part of it is the most
every time
confusing.
they make a trade, you're always like, wait, what are they getting?
Yeah.
And it just seems like now it's like, cool, we get Zach Collins for 2 years, and like I just don't get them at all.
Another team that just like held on to Zach LaVine for too long, waiting for the perfect deal to materialize, and it never did. And
Do we know that better deals were
yes,
available earlier than
better
this?
than this. Yes.
Yeah.
I think Golden State was trying to get him before they went down the Butler road, but I think that was sitting there. I thought he was the sneaky trade piece of this whole thing. His contract's bad, but it's not that bad. It's this year, next year, and then it's an expiring. He was playing great. I think I'd said this before, but he plays well against good teams, which I think matters. And I don't know what to make of that Sacramento team. We talked about it earlier, but you could tell me they're going to win 10 of their next 12. You could tell me they're going to lose 12 in a row. It's a weird team.
I mean, their owner just doesn't like the idea of a complete teardown and rebuild. And so other people might have been like, look, Fox has been our franchise player for how long? We built everything around him. We moved Halliburton out of here because of him and our belief in him, and he no longer wants to be here. All right, let's start all over.
Right.
See if we can get some Sabonis offers out there. Let's start all over, do something different.
Waz, they've made the playoffs one time
Yeah,
in 20
I get it.
years.
I get
20
it.
years.
I get it.
Like that's the thing. It's like in theory, sure, from an asset standpoint, maybe there's an argument for a teardown. Sabonis has been probably a little too good as at least as a regular season player
And
for that.
Sabonis, like, who trades for Sabonis? I feel like he's way more valuable to them than he would be to some other
That
team.
could be true. That could be true.
A wise GM told me once, you always want to have 6 or 7 dumb teams that you can trade with at any time in a 30-team league. And Sacramento has just always managed to be one of those teams.
This has been a big deadline for potentially dumb teams. I know we're not dipping too much into the Lakers part of this yet, but the Luka trade has made me feel young again. It is hearkening back to a time of our youth where there just haven't been like that many old-fashioned, absolute dog shit, like David Kahn style trades.
I was literally about to scream it, Bill.
That's what it
Khan's
evokes.
running a team in France right now. We have 12 minutes left in the deadline, and so far we're in Cody Zeller, Dennis Schroeder land. Is there a team that you are surprised hasn't done anything yet?
Definitely the Magic, most surprised, because they're so rudderless right now, and the idea that you wouldn't try to spruce that thing up is tough. I think the Knicks are really counting on Mitchell Robinson coming back and being that anchor.
It's a big
they
roll
really
of the dice.
need him.
But the big man market has also dried up pretty fast on them.
Okay, so a
But
buddy
you have
of mine,
Nick Claxton and Cam Johnson still sitting there.
They're
And
both
I don't,
sitting
the
there.
Nets, are they trying to
Clint
stink or not?
Capella.
stink?
Why is
Clint
nobody
Capella.
going to scoop Clint
Right.
Capella? Is this an injury history
I think
thing?
he's currently injured, I want to say.
I think it's a Swiss thing.
Yeah, Magic should have probably tried to do something. I get it. They can be patient. Their guys are still young and all of that stuff, and they feel like they're building towards something. but the Magic should have done something. I'm always going to think the Denver Nuggets should have upgraded.
So Denver's my number one.
Mm.
I don't know what apron Denver's in, but they seem perfectly content to stay in that apron and not do anything. I was even wondering, like when Middleton got moved to Washington, would they try to make a move with Porter and use that Middleton contract, get one other, try to do like a 3-for-1, something like that, and maybe jump on the chance to dump Porter somewhere. But Porter's actually been playing pretty well lately.
And Michael Malone was like quite definitive.
Yeah,
that they're
yeah.
not going to trade Michael Porter.
So it seems like he's there. Murray, they're already all in on. Jokic obviously isn't going anywhere. Gordon, they extended, and they just don't really have the flexibility. But if they do like the Zeke Naji with Saric, some swaps, second, third, and fourth round picks, and just I don't know, what could you get for that?
They are actually close. Like they feel like one even kind of minor role player addition could tick them up a couple percentage points in the title race. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And also, just related to that,
Especially in the West.
why has nobody made a move for Jeremy Grant? I know the Bucks were kicking the tires.
Because they have
on
league
him.
pass?
We're kicking the tires on him.
Because he makes $35 million a year or whatever? 32?
And he's already 30. But I
think he's untradeable at that number.
It's one of those things where guys on bad teams, I feel like you get in the right situation that's actually playing for something. You can change the contours of what you do on a night-to-night basis if it's for some greater good.
A couple YouTube chat questions as we wait for a trade. Daniel wants to know if we can discuss Butler's jersey retirement in Miami and whether that would happen.
Who's retired over there?
I'm already on the record
Michael
as
Jordan?
After Vince Carter's number got retired in New Jersey and Toronto, I think everyone is eligible now.
Yeah.
Especially Vince in Toronto. If that can happen, I'm fully prepared for Jimmy Butler in Miami. I think that should happen, but we'll see. It'll probably be after Pat Riley's dead, maybe like 15 years from now.
Probably. He's definitely one of the greatest Heat ever.
Russell Martin says Sacramento turning into the Bulls is so sad.
This is disrespectful to Domantas Sabonis.
It's
I want
not.
to.
They're better.
They're better than the Bulls.
They're better than
They're the Bulls
have
with
been.
Domantas Sabonis.
Yeah. That's a meaningful difference.
The
Bulls
Bulls
that's a different thing.
basically had, what was it, 30 games in Lonzo's first year?
But what a
where they
beautiful,
shot
what a
out the
beautiful
gates?
23 games they were.
And Sacramento's
Capella's not
been
injured.
that good. Capella's not. I don't know. Like, if you need big man help,
He might be day to day. It might be a minor.
if you need
back
big
thing
man
or
help,
something.
why are you breaking the bank to me? And I know we're saving it for the second half for Mark Williams,
Save it for the second half.
where you could do something for Clint Capella just for this year.
A couple people are asking about KD. KD to the Spurs, KD to the Grizzlies, KD to the Rockets.
KD to the Grizzlies.
What's
is
the
a
most
KD
interesting
move.
of those three?
KD to the Grizzlies is a KD move because they have the stars already, so he won't feel like the burden is.
Oh, that
all
I was
on
wondering how you're
him.
going to make this insulting for a second.
Yeah, the
I thought
burden's-
you were like, I thought you were complimenting him, and I was like, I was confused.
No, he's gonna recognize the burden will not be all on him,
Hmm.
and so he can go in and just do KD things. Just come in.
Plus, he can
get
take over
buckets
the
and go
offense in the 2 out of
100%.
every 5 games when Ja doesn't play for some reason.
It
Is
also
Ja not playing today? No, he's got bronchitis.
home. Listen,
it also would be very bittersweet.
Josh just trying to save himself for the playoffs.
Has Ja played
Is
4
that what he's
games in a
doing?
row?
I don't
I'm concerned.
think so yet, but they're being very.
Should I be
cautious.
surprised when I put the Grizzlies on League Pass and it's like, here's Ja Morant, he's playing tonight. He's like him and Joel Embiid. I can't believe you're on my
Here's
TV.
the perfect compliment I could play the Grizzlies, and I get it. I'm in the tank for them.
Yeah.
Even when Ja's not playing, I still want to watch that.
Well,
team
yeah, the Jaren
every
Jackson Jr.
single
agenda
night.
is strong.
Yeah.
My biggest regret is not voting for him as an all-star starter. I
For
didn't have the
Jaren?
balls. I wasn't strong enough. And then Russillo, of course, did it. And then I was super jealous of it. Because when you watch him, there's definitely an aggro Jaren Jackson this year,
he's been
especially in crunch
amazing.
time.
Yeah.
And they'll run offense like Bam Adebayo style. Like he'll bring the ball over midcourt and be telling people where to go.
Drive at people too.
That would be the kick of the potential Kevin Durant trade, would be that the Grizzlies spent all this time cultivating this very elaborate, interwoven offense. And it's
Here
like,
you go, baby.
let's just give the ball to Kevin Durant.
So if the Rockets traded, I'm trying to think what the KD trade would be, but I think Van Vliet would have to be in it.
Probably
'Cause they
so.
can't trade But if it was like,
Damn, who's playing point guard for them?
if it was like Van Vliet, Terry Eason, a bunch of picks, and Phoenix just gets a reboot, and then they get out from under, the money stuff next year. I wouldn't do. I'm not wavering from I wouldn't do anything if I'm the Rockets this year because I don't think they're winning the title, and I want to move into the summer and make a move with Jalen Green or Şengün.
Also, if you're gonna do that, man, get somebody who's in their 20s, even if it's their late 20s. Get somebody in there. Don't get a 38-year-old, man. It's like
you're adding years to him. He's like 36, 35. Mahoney, where do you stand on KD right now as an impact guy?
Really, he's really good.
Because his stats.
Oh, his stats are insane.
Yeah.
I was actually looking at this. I did a little. I actually did some homework for this pod because it's my job. I was looking at KD this year versus KD career. So his last 15 years, from 2010 to this year, he's 28 a game. This year he's 27. He was 7 rebounds for those 15 years. He's 6 this year. He's 5 assists. He's 4 this year. For those 15 years, 51%. He's 52 this year. 39% for 3, 40 this year. 7.6 free throw attempts for those 15 years. 6.1 this year.
Yep.
He's 91% of what he normally is. And the only slippage I really see is when I watch, because he just looks a little creakier, stiffer than he used to be. Sure. He used to be like such a
one of the
way he
smoothest
moved,
players
like he
in the
was
league.
just so smooth. He's still smooth, but he's not like that. Is there anything else you've noticed?
I mean, he is by far their most reliable creator this year. He's the only reason their defense has ever remotely worked, which it mostly does not. But he's the only thing kind of papering over most of their mistakes and the lack of ball pressure on the perimeter. There's a reason why when he's out, they look like a totally different team. They don't know how to work without him in Phoenix.
Only thing he doesn't do anymore is turn the corner on guys.
Yeah,
he's not getting to the cup the way prime KD, that was what made it unstoppable.
But he still gets to the spots,
but
and
he
can
gets
elevate.
to the spot.
Hey, we have a trade.
Yes, sir.
Shams, yet again. Shams just dancing in Woj's wake. He's having a great time. The Grizzlies trading Marcus Smart and a 25 first-round pick to the Wizards in a multi-team trade that sends a couple second-round picks to Memphis. Memphis creates roster flexibility and cap stuff with the move. We also have Shams saying Kevin Porter Jr. to the Bucks for Marjan Beauchamp. I've gone to a couple Kevin Porter games where you watch and you're like, this guy's pretty good.
No.
And then you have to calm yourself down. No, he gets to the basket, man.
Moments where he looks like an above average NBA athlete, where it's man, this guy has some physical gifts in terms of quickness and all of that. But
can we talk about the Smart thing though?
Yeah.
So they trade Smart 2 first-round picks. They trade 2 first-round picks and basically Porzingis for Smart is the trade, right? And Smart shows up and he's been banged up the entire time, which I think is. I tried to say this delicately when the trade happened. I think the Celtics felt like this car has a lot of miles on it.
Sure.
Let's sell a year too high than a year too late. And I wonder because he's an expiring this year or next year? Can't remember.
Let's find out.
But he still feels like a playoff guy for me. And I remember the Lakers tried to get him a year ago, and I wonder if that ends up being a Laker possibility would be my guess. I'll find out as you guys talk. Marcus Smart, anything left in the tank?
I mean, this is a player over 25 for the Washington Wizards, which does not fit their
Middleton,
timeline,
2
apparently.
adults.
I guess that's true. They do have Chris Middleton now. What a weird roster. What a weird way for Marcus Smart's Grizzlies tenure to end. I can't believe that we got here.
Next year is his last year, $21 million.
$21 million for Marcus Smart.
So, yeah, I don't know what's left.
Well, now that they have Marcus Smart, the Wizards have waived Reggie Jackson. So,
Reggie.
Shout out to Reggie Jackson's
Maybe back to Denver.
brief Wizards career.
So, yeah, with Marcus, whether there's anything left in the tank or not, as somebody who watched a lot of his career, most of his games that he played, just that style of play, you're just not aging nicely. All the fucking abuse that his body took, all the charges he took, all the big guys he had to go against, and I don't know. I just want to get to the world where he's retired and he's the lead analyst with Drew Carter on Celtic games. Maybe with Scal. We can keep Scal. But I think Marcus Smart will be an incredible post-career local Celtic guy. Would be my hope.
I'm trying to figure out what Memphis is doing because the reporting from Shams around the Marcus Smart trade is that it's creating roster flexibility. And Memphis just
So there's some trade coming.
dumped Jake LaRavia, who can actually play,
Rotation guy.
to the Sacramento Kings. Nice little pickup for them.
So they did that weird thing with LaRavia where they didn't extend his option, so he was a free agent after the year, and then he started playing really well,
He did.
and they kind of fucked it up. So the Kings got LaRavia.
They got LaRavia.
I like him. I was hoping the Celtics would get him.
So what are the Grizzlies going to do here?
I wonder if there's. Now I'm starting to wonder if there's some KD potential.
It would be very exciting.
Although
Although I was when the KD era in Phoenix appeared that it might be coming to a close, I was trying to reflect and see like, okay, what have we done here? About 2 years as a Sun so far. Obviously hasn't had the playoff run this year. A 6-9 record in the playoffs with Phoenix. 1 playoff series win.
But that awesome 2 games with Booker where they scored like
That was sick.
90 points each game
honestly very
together,
sick.
They
and
were
it was like
down
holy
two,
shit.
2-0 to the Nuggets and came back and tied the series up.
Hey guys, we have to end part 1 of the podcast, but we're staying on YouTube. Don't leave. We're just ending part 1 of the podcast, which will go up pretty shortly. We're going to start part 2 right now. And guess what? Part 2 is also presented by Michelob Ultra, our friends, the Superior Light Beer, the official beer sponsor of the NBA. Okay, so it's part 2 right now officially. It is 12:01 PT, and we're going to talk a lot about the Lakers down the road once we know all the trades. The big thing we're waiting up, there's been another trade. Sham says Indiana trading James Wiseman and cash to the Toronto Raptors. He can't walk. He blew out his Achilles, so that's our first one.
Yeah.
But we're on Grizzlies watch now because they're clearly up to something. They're dumping salary and creating cap room for some reason.
And roster spots, it feels like.
Is it Cam Johnson maybe?
I mean, they've been linked to Cam Johnson for sure. He makes a lot of sense for them.
What's your Cam Johnson feelings?
Very much like him as a player. I think he has been now appropriately placed. Now that we've had the Luka craziness, we've had De'Aaron Fox, we've had Jimmy Butler, everything has cooled down. Cam Johnson is a really good player who could help a bunch of different teams, including the Memphis Grizzlies. And now that is the context in which he lives.
Yeah, he's not the kind of guy that you just stick him on a great wing and think, oh, it's going to be fine. He's not. The D part of the 3-and-D is,
No.
I think we finally let it go. He shoots the hell out of the ball. Variety of ways to get his shot off, which I think is going to be important for Memphis. And he's respectable on defense. I
like that we're putting him in the Grizzlies now. This is fun. Yeah, I think Memphis, he's going to help them with shooting.
But this is the kind of thing where I don't know to what extent these conversations could be linked, but if the Bucks could have gotten it on Cam Johnson instead of Kyle Kuzma, like that's
Price
the
might
kind of
be
fit
too high.
it honestly might be.
Too high.
Well, I mean,
Brooklyn just doesn't trade anymore.
Kuzma's been kicking ass this year.
You guys are going to rue today.
Kuzma's so
You
good.
laughed about the
know.
Kyle Kuzma deal.
I mean,
I mean, when you can get a minus 59 plus minus in one game, you've really accomplished something. I have a quick Nets take before we find out the rest of their trades. Do they really need to do anything else? I kind of like Cam Johnson. I kind of like Nick Claxton. They're going to suck anyway.
Sure.
They're going to be a bottom 10 team, which is their goal. And why not just keep those guys and keep them as assets for the summer? I'd rather do that.
I don't think there's a tremendous amount of urgency. I think they do have the option to play out some things. There are a couple of guys, like Cam Thomas is sort of the one that comes to mind. Do you really want to be paying free agent Cam Thomas?
Yeah.
Probably not.
But he's also a tougher sell for a lot of different teams in the first place. He has his own injury concerns that winning teams that are trying to contend right now might not want to take a flyer on something like that. So the guys that I look at for Brooklyn are more like, oh, is there not a way you can flip D'Lo again? Is there not a market for Cam Thomas? How do you really feel about Day'Ron Sharpe?
Again.
I mean, why not?
D'Lo and Schroeder just start trading them for each other. I didn't want to bring this up because I don't want to spoil the mood because we're having a good time. I know Ben Simmons being traded on trade deadline as an expiring contract was a dream for you. And it feels like the dream is dying right now. What would have been your dream Ben Simmons team?
The dream Ben Simmons team.
To the team that gets him and is like, I don't know. We'll see what he has. Maybe he could be an asset.
Who are those teams, though? It's got to be like a Charlotte. It's got to be a Portland. It's got to be a team that's like going absolutely
Portland. You
nowhere
can't break
fast.
up Portland right now. They're on fire.
You know, who is the team that says, Ben Simmons, let's take a flyer on this?
I was thinking with Charlotte just fucking losing their mind, he would have been like a fun LaMelo Ball kind of combo.
I mean, they got time to kill at this point.
They got so
Can
much
I share
time.
something kind of funny with you guys? After all of these moves, the Wizards are now officially over the first apron. I mean, when you have a chance to really pay out the nose
That
for a
can't be
roster,
true.
that is technically true at the moment.
Just because they wanted to acquire 100 second-round picks?
Took on a bunch of picks, took on a bunch of money. Congratulations to the Wizards for winning the first apron championship.
And if you're over the first apron, what does that do exactly?
For them, basically nothing at the moment. It just kind of limits the ways in which you can acquire players. I think by the time that the summer rolls over, enough of that money will come off that it won't prevent them from like getting somebody in a sign and trade or something like that.
Apparently, Shams said on TV that they are not moving Kevin Durant, the Suns.
Okay.
I wonder if they were ever really interested in moving Kevin Durant. And I wonder if anyone in Ishbia's conference room was like, we're going to trade Kevin Durant and get Jimmy Butler back? What are we doing?
No, I don't think.
Why are
that
we
was
doing that?
ever on
That
the
seemed like a
table.
pipe dream for the Heat. If
That was
if
never
that
on
could
the
ever be
table.
connected.
I think that was the Golden State trade, though.
That was
the-
their attempt, was to make it a three-way deal.
But I
Got
think
you.
if he wanted to go to Golden State, I think that trade was probably happening in some form, and Phoenix was getting Butler and some,
But
maybe
again,
the protected pick from Golden State or whatever else.
But if you are Phoenix as part of that, that's what we're saying. Like the Beal for Butler conversation makes sense. The Durant trade, lose Kevin Durant and replace him with Jimmy Butler.
But that's what I'm saying.
Does not
I think
work.
they were gonna do it though.
That's
Which, if I was a Suns fan, I would just be alarmed.
I think they should be alarmed for many reasons.
yeah.
You know, Rob, that's a great point. The Suns fans,
think they should
the
be
alarms are
alarmed.
going off either way. We do not have the Knicks are not making a trade. So, all right. So, let's start the Lakers part of this conversation, and then if anything else happens, we'll just audible and stop and keep going. So the Lakers trade Connect. I don't know if he's going to get a 30 for 30 for his 50 Laker games or what's going to happen, but it was a roller coaster ride. He seemed like the steal of the draft. I think I have a podcast somewhere where I was shitting on Miami for taking Ware over Connect. It's probably somewhere in my archives.
Let's just delete that.
But so they turn Connect, Cam Reddish, who I think is just 24 years old for the next 10 years. I don't know if he ages. And then a 2031 first and a swap. And they bring Mark Williams back. The swap, whatever. Is Charlotte ever going to have?
Yeah.
Come on. And then the 2031 first for a team that is almost definitely going to have Luka Doncic on it.
Maybe.
Probably.
Probably.
At 31 years old, probably. I'm not doing backflips about that. Why would they trade Mark Williams, a young center who has really played well the last 6 weeks? Is this offer like just too good to refuse? What was it?
I really like Mark Williams, the basketball player. Mark Williams, the injury risk, scares the hell out
That's
of me.
it.
You mean the 85 career games in 3 years?
He has played less than 40% of his games
And he's
in
had
3 years.
like 3 ankle things. He's had a back thing. Broke his thumb, not his fault. The back thing was probably the most concerning. Then they said he had some sort of foot issue that they feel good about. So that's the risk.
It's one of these things where I get why Charlotte would look at this offer and say, you know what, maybe we just get out of the Mark Williams business. We like him. We like what he's brought. We like his potential. But ultimately, maybe he's just too risky. And between Connect and the pick and the swap, that's enough value. And I also honestly do get it from the Lakers. You know, they're not going to have many chances to take swings on players this young and this promising.
Cheap contract, like $5-6 million.
But it's going to come up sooner than you think because he's already been in the league and hurt for so long. And is going to be just a hell of a lob target for Luka Doncic. Just an incredible finisher, already a pretty good rebounder, really needs to figure it out defensively. But as far as a team that can grow and build around Luka, that's a great place to start.
So we know this because we're on the West Coast. The East Coast teams that start playing at 4:00 in the afternoon here, and you're like, "Oh, basketball's on," and then it's like Pistons, Hornets, Wizards, Hornets,
Literally
And
the
it's-
games.
and for whatever reason, most of the bad teams this year in the East, and those are the teams playing at 4:00. So there's some people probably talking out of their ass about Mark Williams, but I think we've all probably watched him, and I've definitely watched the Hornets recently. and noticed how good Mark Williams was. And there was a Denver game. Jokic got all his stats, but Mark Williams was also getting stats. And I liked him coming out of college.
Yeah,
I think one of the reasons they traded Nick Richards was they felt like he was ready to be a guy. And he was a guy. And he was like, lob guy. Who knows with the defense? He's been on bad teams. We have no idea.
It's true.
Lob guy, gets 20-12 basically every night, and is exactly the kind of guy the Lakers needed. I thought it was a good trade. They gave up a lot, but I liked it.
I'm a little bit more lukewarm on it just because I think the price was high. In terms of that 2031, everybody's like looking at that as the one.
And that is kind of their one shot. Was
That's
like
the
Dalton.
thing.
I guess they still have
And
Austin
Connect.
Reeves. They could move Reeves at some point, but Connect and the pick, and I guess
Yes.
to some extent the swap, were their primary catalyst.
So I
to
think
make
that
deals.
was pretty high. And I think with Luka building around him, I think you should be thinking defense first. And Mark Williams is an offense first player. We get it. He's a huge guy. Like, he's like in the Rudy Gobert category in terms of like length and size and all of that stuff. But he has never shown to be like a great defensive kind of guy in his limited availability.
You know why he's never shown it? Because he's played 85 games.
That's fair, and that's
It
the
all
thing.
makes sense.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, maybe he's going to turn into this defensive monster, this rim protecting beast that he hasn't shown yet because he does have the tools. He's not very mobile, but I just think with Luka, you should be thinking defense first and offense. Like with Luka, like you just don't have to be that great in order to make it work around everything that he does. And so that's the only.
He's like 7 feet 250.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a crazy athlete, like really,
Yes.
really athletic. And most importantly, he is not Jackson Hayes. So huge
Yes.
upgrade right out of the gate.
As you guys know, it's. I have to always do a disclaimer. I hate the Lakers, and I don't want them to
Sure.
succeed. I saw this trade. I thought they gave up a lot for a guy who has not even played 100 career games yet. But deep down, I was like, fuck. Mark Williams is good. Like, he's a good player.
Yeah.
And I was just the Celtics fan side of me was like, fuck. That guy. So now I think about the Lakers in a series, and I really want to talk about this.
Yeah.
Size, they're gonna play with a certain pace with Luka and LeBron.
Oh, slow.
It's gonna be
Yeah.
slow, methodical. They're gonna be big. And it's the kind of team, if I'm OKC, I'm not pumped about
No.
playing. A team that's going to be able to try to dictate the pace against us, that's going to throw big bodies all over the place. And it's like, we're going to take Mark Williams out. Now all of a sudden we have LeBron, Luka, and Rui Hachimura as our bigs. Like, they're always going to have size and length basically everywhere except the point guard position. But I don't think in the playoffs.
Even at the point, like Austin Reeves is a big point, or
Right.
Luka, whoever you want to consider. To be
And in the
point guard.
playoffs, like Luka just might be the point guard. They might just be Luka, LeBron, two wings, and Mark Williams, and that's their crunch time lineup. I'd be really scared of this team in the playoffs.
The only thing about the Lakers is you have to think about the defense because it's like, is LeBron guarding threes full time? You got Luka as a defender.
He doesn't guard 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5s.
You got Austin Reeves.
Doesn't
And you
guard.
got
He
Mark
tries at
Williams. Like, it's not the greatest
No.
defensive situation happening there. But like Luka and LeBron figuring out your little postseason defense, that's scary.
Yeah, when people
That's scary.
people try to zag on the trade, like, how are those guys going to play together?
What?
They both have the ball all the time, and it's like, I'm positive they're going to figure this out.
Not worried about
LeBron
it.
and
It's
Luka
like,
are going to figure out how to play offense.
Who has the smallest guy in them? You or me?
Yeah.
Oh, you do. All right, you're going to have the ball now.
bludgeon him to death?
Also,
Yeah.
low key, Luka, I thought was a pretty good sport about playing off the ball more this season in
Yep.
general. Like, had actually started to make some meaningful improvement in that part of his game. LeBron can obviously do it. These are brilliant players. It's not going to be a problem in terms of the offense. And you're right. The thing that we talk about as being maybe the most important skill set in basketball is how do you break down half-court defense? And can you score one-on-one against anybody?
Definitely.
They have guys who can do that at
These
an
are-
incredibly high level.
Two of the most brilliant basketball players of this
ever.
century. They're now together. They have a team that the worries were, we don't have enough size. How are we going to guard people? Vanderbilt,
Finney Smith.
Yeah,
Finney Smith.
Vanderbilt, Finney
They'll at least be
Smith,
like, all right,
yeah.
if we're playing some hot wing in a playoff series, do we have somebody that we can at least cover them with? They have that. I don't think they're going to be able to guard point guards at all.
No.
So, like, you pick
And
a point
just pray to
guard, that
God
guy's
that you
dusting
don't
them.
play a team that wants to spread you out because, again, LeBron, Luka getting spread out, like,
Yeah.
But first
covering
two rounds in the
space.
playoffs, like it's like 3, 4. It really doesn't get to conference finals when it's every other day. And
Yeah.
I think they could make the conference finals. Like, I can't believe how things have flipped. It makes me want to pull one of my kidneys out and whip it against the fucking wall. But they're going to be really hard to play. And if I look at like OKC number 1, who's number 2 for playoffs, who has the ability to do this, the Lakers are the first choice.
Denver's still my first choice, but again, like you're gonna have to pry Denver out of my cold, dying hands, right? In terms
so maybe
of my
maybe they're
belief in
2B, yeah. Lakers, Denver, 2A, 2B, and some.
Because Houston is so young, the offense is like you still gotta make shots.
The Grizzlies erasure.
No, the Grizzlies. The
Come on,
Grizzlies.
guys.
Yeah, but
I think the Grizz are going to be really good even in a playoff set. They have a lot to prove, as all these teams do, the Lakers included. Like we need to see how the Lakers guard.
I'm telling you, Ja is taking all this time off. He's saving his body.
I hope
for
you're
the
right.
Playoffs,
I hope you're
guys.
right.
That's where my train gets off.
The Grizzlies?
No, with the Ja thing. I just
got you.
He's just not playing basketball enough.
Got you.
And it feels like they're beholden to him and the potential of what he can do, but he's just not doing it regularly. And so I think that's probably the team that has the upside ceiling.
Yes.
They could.
But if I'm just betting, I'm taking Denver and the Lakers are the 2.
Another Laker thing with this trade, I think they're betting majorly on free agency in 2026. And I looked at it, it is you can look it up. It's like a bunch of older guys, and the number 1 prize is Jaren Jackson, which I'm not doing that. I'm not putting the Laker jersey on Jaren Jackson. I'm just saying LeBron
Conspiracy
might be
was
done. I'm
Jaren
just saying
Jackson to the
LeBron
Lakers?
might be done. Obviously, he's his 50.
Does he grow up a Laker fan? Is it one of
50
those?
million. No. I'm just saying he is the main target of pretty much every team in the league at this point. But
I think that's why they did the smart trade, though, because I think Memphis is trying to give him a massive extension. By the way, he might be an All-NBA guy.
Yeah,
I think he's in the running for it.
Yeah.
Like he could be
a tremendous season.
But the rest of the guys in 2026, which I think the Lakers are also banking on, that they're going to bring in a major talent in 2026 as well that summer.
Yeah.
We'll take a quick break for the podcast and keep going on the YouTube, because it doesn't seem like we're gonna have any more trades. I'm gonna read you the Western Conference odds. OKC is plus 105. Who do you think is the number 2 best odds in the West right now?
Probably the Lakers, just because everyone bets on the Lakers, I would think.
What do you have, Wes?
I would go Memphis.
So Denver is second at
Denver
6-1. Who do you think is number 3?
I mean, I'm assuming I'm just going to keep saying the Lakers until they show up.
Lakers plus 750. So we basically what we said before. The gambling public also agrees. Grizzlies are 4th.
People seen that Luka trade and just said, "Yeah, I need it."
Grizzlies 4th at 11-1. Clippers 16-1.
And this is to win the West?
Win the West.
The Clippers are above the Rockets to win the West.
18-1.
In terms of odds.
You know why they're above the Rockets? Because everyone's seen these fucking crunch time Fred VanVleet plays. Nobody can watch them anymore. How many terrible step back threes can you have in one season?
Leave Fred alone.
How many? I like Fred, but how is that your offense at the end of games?
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. He's turned out to be like quite critical to making them functional.
Do
but
they
also quite
do they
limiting.
draw those up in the huddle?
I don't.
I'm
think
thinking
that's the
Fred
move.
step back 3 again.
Look,
We're only down 2.
He's miscast in his role as number 1 crunch time.
I think he
offense
thinks he's the guy in the team, though.
But often, like, who is going to create?
I'm just spreading the floor for Thompson and just get to the basket somehow.
Maybe that's
tough.
where they get to.
Just get to the basket.
Ime can't. He's not going to bring himself to be like Amen Thompson is now our freaking crunch time scorer.
Or Jalen Green, one of those guys. Spread the floor for
Jalen
one of them.
Green is the
Or
one
post
who
up
should be stepping
Şengün.
up.
You lost me at Jalen Green. Look, he's had great
Rob
moments.
has hated Jalen Green.
I'm just going to the basket over the Fred
not a fan.
VanVleet step back. I can't do it again.
I feel that. I think Amen right now is thriving in chaos. Anytime the floor is unstable, unbalanced, unsettled, he's so good. Set half-court defense coming out of a timeout, drive with a guy right in your face. Not quite his game yet.
Houston 18-1, Golden State 20-1. Minnesota 23-1. Interesting, because they have a chance to be a top
Still
5
haven't
team.
traded Julius Randle.
I want to say this too. There's a difference, I would say, between the odds to win the West and the odds to also make the conference finals alongside the Thunder. I don't think Memphis can beat OKC in a way that you can talk yourself into the Lakers. You could talk yourself into Denver. You can see the way their advantages profile.
You can see them, the size advantage and the sort of mind advantage of out executing this really young team who's still only ever done the second round last year. you can see yourself. Memphis is not going to have the IQ advantage in any series that they're in. It's just not going to be the case.
They're super young and relying on dudes that have never been there. So I haven't done a podcast since Sunday night with Goldsberry. And definitely not since the press conference, which I think you guys talked about. Didn't you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Nico
Nico
Harrison?
Harrison press conference.
No, the Luca press
Oh,
conference.
sure. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, we didn't talk.
We
about
didn't
that.
talk
You didn't
about-
talk about that?
no.
No.
So
You want to talk leather jackets or what? What do you want? Where do you want to go?
I've been obviously like you guys talking a lot about this Luca trade the last few days, and so if you're in the room with Nico Harrison, and he bring. First of all, let's live in the facade of the world where nobody knew about this trade except Nico Harrison, the Mavs owner, Jeannie Buss, and Pelinka. We'll be in that pretend world where LeBron didn't know and Rich Paul didn't know and Jason Kidd didn't know. We'll be in that pretend world that didn't actually exist. And you're actually in the room and Nico Harrison is like, getting close, we might do this. Did anyone around him at some point say, don't do this. You're going to trade Luka to the Lakers. All the things that frustrate you about him, all you're doing is putting a giant fucking chip on his shoulder, and he's going to turn into Liam Neeson in the second half of Taken and be fucking awesome for the Lakers. You have to factor that in the trade. You're not trading this guy now who's 280 pounds in December, and he's kind of a dick to people. Who knows? Who knows what the reasons are? But just this is what will be the result of the trade, is this fucking maniac on the Lakers trying to get his vengeance year after year on you and the Mavs. Don't do this. And I don't think anyone said that to him.
I think the Luka having issues with his body and his conditioning,
He's 25.
it bothers people who Jason Kidd, who was a great player himself, been around greatness, hyper competitive guy, talk about calling Luka out. Nobody in the history of Luka's career has done more publicly to call Luka. I remember him saying, I'm not the savior. I'm not the one who people call the savior of the franchise. Like Jason Kidd and Nico Harrison, who again is a big Kobe guy, and you think about the way Kobe comported himself and took his superstardom so seriously.
Eventually came to comport himself. Didn't start out that way.
Sure.
Yeah, the revisionist history of
Sure,
that
but-
nuts. We've just thrown out the entire mid-2000s.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, though. Like, he was around Kobe when he was
Yes.
that maniacal person. I think there's just like a boy king factor where you just feel like we can't get Luka to do these things now. Why, when we guarantee him $350 million, is he going to do it?
Because he's Luka Doncic?
Yeah.
Because he's off to one of the
I
best
don't
5
disagree with
starts
you.
in the first 7 years?
I'm playing devil's advocate here. I could see a bunch of hyper-competitive people being like, this guy's just the next Embiid. He's never going to do the requisite things to get his body in check. He's never going to actually be on the floor for us. We get it. He took us to the finals, but he just doesn't care enough about this extra stuff. And so let's get out of this business. I don't agree,
Rob?
guys.
It's such a narrow
But-
view of what greatness looks like. Of that, it basically has to look like Kobe Bryant's, like basically fake work.
I disagree. Look at Steph Curry. Look at LeBron. Look at Jokic. Look at what he did to get his conditioning
For
and
sure.
all of his stuff right. Like, the best players actually do this.
I don't disagree with you, but like you could look at Giannis's injury history, and that's a guy who takes great care of himself, who puts incredible work on his game, on his body. Some guys get hurt, and some guys get hurt for reasons that have nothing really to do with whatever their conditioning is or whatever state their body is in. And honestly, the problem with the Embiid comp, and it's come up a lot, like this is sort of the primary defense you hear, is a Joel Embiid comparison for Luka
who
Doncic.
plays half of the games in his career.
Also, Luka at his best is better than Joel Embiid has ever been,
100%.
and he has done more in the playoffs than Joel Embiid
And went
has
to the
ever done.
finals 9 months ago.
9 months ago.
That's the thing.
I also think
Going to the finals is the thing for me. It's like he's put it on the floor. Like, that he has it in him to carry a team to the freaking finals. Like, he's 25.
he's 25. He's not the human being / work ethic
100%.
guy he's going to be.
Yeah.
We've seen people. I know I made a shitload of mistakes in my mid-20s. I'm sure you guys did too. Things you would take back. We've seen it with athletes over and over again, including Kobe Bryant, by the way. Mid-20s aren't, if the talent is there and the competitiveness is there, which it has been the entire time with this dude, and your only thing is, I wish he was in better shape. I wish maybe he treated people around here a little bit better. Like those aren't real reasons to trade him. And I just think they did him the all-time favor. You could see in the press conference, he looked miserable.
Oh.
He looked shell-shocked.
Dude.
He looked like he couldn't believe this happened. And I just think maybe it's because I'm older and I've been down this road a few times in sports. Like I just think I would bet anything he's going to be awesome on the Lakers. I just think this is the kind of thing sometimes guys need. It's like the cattle prod.
Sure.
And that's it.
And again, the Mavericks have effectively bet, not just by trading away Luka, but by bringing back a Lakers pick as the primary future return of the deal, that this will not work.
Or that he's going to leave.
I think both of those things are bad bets. And to put yourself in Luka's shoes.
Oh, no.
Oh, boy.
Oh, my God. Conspiracy Bill is back. It's almost like they think he's headed somewhere in the summer of 2026. And that's why they wanted that 29
But also, both
first.
they and Luka have
Almost
said
like they know something.
Nico Harrison is now on the record as saying there was no indication that Luka, from him or any of his representatives, would not have taken the Supermax.
But he's kind of talked out of both sides of his mouth on the Supermax.
Luka
thing.
also basically laughed at the question when it was presented to him of,
did it to San Antonio.
Yeah.
So there are guys who have done it before. There's no indication that Luka was headed down that path.
This is the thing. We have no evidence. We have so little evidence or justification for this trade. You have to invent reasons why it could be valid.
But also, our memories are kind of short too, because remember before the Gafford deal, the PJ Washington deal, that was like a big part of the chatter around Luka. Dallas needs to do something right now to prove to Luka Doncic that he needs to stay here. But so it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, but that's like the lazy NBA discourse of they've
I
got to
don't know, man. I think it was people that were plugged in with like they need to prove to this guy that they're building a winner. That was a big part of
Is
the
it possible
combo.
Luka's just not from this country and sometimes an organization of mostly American people that couldn't really get a handle on a guy from Slovenia? Like, does it seem like Denver has a handle on Jokic?
I mean, Nikola Jokic could retire this summer,
Yeah,
and I
like,
wouldn't be surprised.
If you talk to anybody who is even remotely associated with the Nuggets, they're like, that guy could fucking retire in 2 months and none of us would be shocked. So,
and his jersey would go up in the rafters and still be one of the greatest
Jokic
players of all time.
Like, we're doing the two
no, I get it. I'm
block
just saying,
guys, but
I'm saying
Jokic
obviously
is different.
But there was a
He's
disconnect
different.
with the organization and their best player, and it's come out ever since. And they had no problem, especially when they realized how unpopular the trade was. They had no problem leaking stuff out left and right, including stuff I'm not going to say in the pod. But the fact that they kept this trade secret because they knew their fans were going to be so upset about it that the moment it leaked, there was going to be such a reaction against it that the owners would have backed out, should tell you you're making the wrong trade.
Probably should.
That's all I need to know. It's like, hey, we have to keep this between us. It can't get out. Why can't it get out? What would be the bad thing about it getting out? Because then more teams would offer stuff for Luka Doncic. No, it can't get out because you don't want the Mavs fan base to have a riot outside the arena.
Here's the thing. Again, I personally would have signed the guy, then tried to move him. If I hated his professional work habits so much, that's what I think they should have did. However, if you are of the mind, you put together a team that went to the finals last year, you have a guy who cannot play, and you think if you bring in an all-NBA level player, that you are going to continue to be a championship-worthy type of squad. I don't agree, but I don't think it's the craziest thing that you could say.
It is a little bit if you put the ages of those players.
Hold on,
into
but
the conversation.
if you're prioritizing this year, looping Luka and his agent and everybody in does not help you. They start telling teams, no, don't do it. No, don't. It actually
it's like the
does
Anthony
start
Davis,
to,
New Orleans thing.
It actually does start to handicap
for sure.
the amount of teams
I hear you.
you can go about moving to. So if you're going on Nico Harrison's idea of how good Dallas could be this year, it actually makes sense. I just think he's wrong.
I think,
He's going to be
his idea
in
is
France
mistaken.
with David Kahn in like 2 years. That's where it's headed for him.
What gets me about this is you don't trade Luka Doncic, period. That's a failure. The decision to trade him because you don't like what basically are these puffs of smoke about his work habits and his conditioning, not real actual basketball
Well,
factors.
and then also in the finals last year when Windhorst had the rant after game 3 because Luka acted immaturely, and
He
cost
has those
them the game.
moments. That absolutely happens. The real thing that's a part of his game. I still would not trade him for any of those reasons. If you did decide to trade him, keeping it secret, not lobbying offers, and I hear you that for this season that would be complicated. So play out this season, a season in which Luka Doncic is going to be a better basketball player than Anthony Davis, provided that he's healthy and back on the court. Play it out, and then once you get him under contract for the Supermax, ask for offers.
But then that becomes another thing. Like, how you can't bring Luka Doncic back after you put him on the trade market.
If your assumption is that he wants to leave, then it's all part of the same process.
It's a scare tactic. Can we bring back in Conspiracy Bill?
Yes.
Let's do
one
it.
more time.
So it's getting a workout today.
So the Mavs, Cuban sells the team, which was fishy to begin with. He was always like, I'm Mavs owner for life. Then all of a sudden he's like, yeah, I'm selling. Sells it to this Vegas group that has gambling ties, all this stuff. The league greenlights it. Did the league say, this is why Conspiracy Bill is, sometimes he's on crack.
Yeah.
Did the league say, we'll greenlight the team, but you got to trade Luka to the Lakers in 2 years?
So that's the
This is coming from a place of deep hurt. I can tell.
that
Conspiracy
is-
Bill also wearing green.
Conspiracy. This is QAnon. QAnon Bill is here.
That is another part of this that's like Mavs ownership group is completely out to lunch on this.
Or are they? Or are they?
How do you?
Or they
how
have
do
much?
you? How do you put your stamp of approval
Or are they-
on this?
Or are they hoping they just swap teams with the Vegas expansion in a couple years and get the F out of Dallas?
I mean, Vegas in terms of a market is not even close to Dallas. It's
Not
like,
even comparable
in the
market
same
sizes. No.
planet. Like Vegas need to be compared themselves to Memphis. They
It's
need to
funny
be
that this
comparing
trade
themselves to
happened
Milwaukee.
5 days ago, and we're still struggling to
Well, yes,
understand a
it's-
reason.
We're at the level of like looking at the Texas state legislative
Yeah.
calendar to
I
figure
got
out
those
when
tweets. I got those
when
ads.
betting
'Cause
should
you realize-
become legal.
You realize what's going to happen? Like 5 days from now, 7 days from now, Luka's going to have like 59 points in a game. And people are going to be like, what just happened? How did we allow this trade? We're going to move into that.
Have you seen the Anthony Edwards sound where he's just like, guys, he kicked our asses to get to the finals. This guy is a stone cold killer.
Yeah. That's
I'm
Anthony
on the
Edwards.
trade block. If this guy can be traded, like, bro, please don't trade me. If you can trade Luka Doncic.
So
and
his
then-
next games, if he comes back Saturday,
That's-
and I'm sure
is that
he's
a
being
projected?
minutes thing.
I believe he's expected to come back
Oh,
Saturday
shoot.
at this point.
Wow.
But figure, so rest of the schedule is Indiana, Utah, at Utah, home Charlotte, February 19th. That has 70 written all over it. At Portland, at Denver, home Dallas. Oh my God, home
Yeah.
Dallas.
I think they have 2 games left.
So February 25th, Dallas, and then Minnesota Clippers. He's going to have like 59 in one of those. There's going to be a game when we just all lose our minds that this happened.
By the way, he had a tough start to the season for Luka standards.
Yeah.
Felt like he wasn't, didn't come to camp. And a lot of guys, best shape of my life,
Yeah.
blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah,
Didn't have
10%
that.
body fat. We didn't hear any of those rumors
No.
about Luka coming into camp.
But the tough start is 28-8-8.
Yeah.
That's a tough start
Tough.
for Luka Doncic,
Tough.
That's
33-9-9 in the conference finals last year.
What are we doing? What are we doing?
You traded this guy to the Lakers. Oh, God.
My dad called me the next because he was asleep when the trade happened.
Yeah.
My dad was
Was he miserable?
He was terrified of Luka in the finals, and he hates the Lakers more than I do. And he said he got all these texts, and he woke up the next day and thought we made a trade the Celtics, and then saw that was a trade. He was like, I don't how did they not stop this? Now we have to deal with Luka, who's going to be pissed off and humbled. And big picture, I don't want to see them in a playoff series if I'm anyone in the West.
No, and that has changed.
You would not have
dramatically.
said that about the Lakers 3 weeks ago. That Knicks game when LeBron was starting to look better,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, when Davis comes back, this team's interesting. I could see them maybe winning a round and throwing some punches in round 2. And now this is the team that LeBron James at age 40 now has a chance to make the finals again.
Well, it's a classic like Anthony Davis raises your floor, Luka Doncic raises the fuck out of your ceiling.
He knocks out the ceiling
Completely.
and you have no idea what to expect.
And Denver, OKC are the only 2 teams you can credibly say Luka won't be the best player in the series. Head and shoulders, by the way. And then, he's got LeBron backing him up.
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah, and you go through the rest of the West. I like this Clippers team, but the fact that they went backwards, I don't. Harden in a playoff series, I don't see it. Minnesota, mess. Phoenix, no way. Dallas as a possible wild card and Golden State as a possible wild card, and that's really it. Unless Wemby just does something absolutely all-time insane.
It would be not shocking if the Spurs make the playoffs. If they advance, would be pretty surprising.
That would be a huge mega upset.
They have so many young guys. They need to learn a lot. Like the Warriors are a team that I could envision making it through to the second round. Not a run, but keeping competitive, scaring somebody a little bit. That could be a thing.
Jimmy Butler with something to prove.
Yep.
Is something I want to bet on.
Quentin Post
was. Quentin Post.
Out of here.
Can you walk us through the Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green text messages?
A lot of profanity.
What Draymond does sends the first text, right?
Definitely Draymond sends the first
like a
text.
let's get it! Exclamation point.
It's more like we're going to rip people's faces off, chew them up, spit them out, kill them. They're a bunch of P words. These guys have nothing on us. It's about time we got together. Like, we're talking about two of the ultimate, like, confidence maniacs that have ever existed
and by the way,
in the NBA.
They, I think, were together in the 2016 Olympics. I think they're good.
I'm not worried. Like I see a lot of chatter about, oh my God, these
no,
two big
they're
personalities.
gonna feed off of each other.
The people Jimmy Butler doesn't like are not the Draymond Green types. They're the people that he sees as like timid or unreliable, and like Draymond shows up.
Andrew Wiggins type,
the young Andrew Wiggins.
Yes,
pre Warriors Revolution Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah, he's like. I think it'll be fine. I would say Draymond's short term probably a bigger risk to everything than Butler. Because I think Butler will be in his best behavior for this season, at the very least. And he's probably
got a lot to prove.
Come to Golden State. Maybe he'll launch a podcast with The Ringer. Who knows?
Yeah. Invest in AI.
Bring him in.
Move some coffee. Yeah. Like, he's got stuff to do.
Maybe invest in Draymond Green's restaurant.
We could get his agent on a podcast.
Bernie.
That guy's got a lot to say.
Character of the year. So if you had wild card teams, and I gave you Golden State, and I gave you Dallas... For one of those two teams will be in the Western Finals. Which one would you pick?
I would take Golden State.
Over Dallas.
Golden State.
So you just think that the stink of this trade is going to submarine Dallas this season?
Like, Jimmy Butler and Steph's playoff pedigree and, like, level that these guys have gotten to, even if they don't get to what they've been, anywhere in that neighborhood is just, no.
I think the part that, Nico Harrison, there are many parts he missed with the trade. I don't think he realized what a distraction / disaster / running story this was going to be, especially if Luka starts playing well for the Lakers.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to single-handedly submarine their season, I think.
It's going to follow him and the team for the rest of his career as a general manager, I would think. We'll see what it ends up doing to the Mavs. My concern is not just, you gave away Luka Doncic. It's really hard to make long playoff runs when you basically have no plus-level passers on your roster. And if you look at what the Mavs lineup is going to be now, AD at the 4, either Lively or Gafford at the 5. Kyrie is now your primary and basically only creator. Klay Thompson, PJ Washington. How are you breaking people down beyond Kyrie just going?
That's
Uncle
one
Drew
of the funniest things about the trade is that they built this whole roster around Luka. All these dudes that were meant to fit with him, and then they trade Luka.
And like, even in those lineups where you're benching both Lively and Gafford and you're playing AD at his most optimal position, it's still Kyrie making that pick and roll happen. And that's just not.
And Kyrie, we know, and I think Kyrie's been really good the last couple years, but
he's lost his step.
I also think you can, like the Celtics, the big thing when Luka fouled out in Game 3, and it was like, all right, Kyrie, take us home. The Celtics shut him down.
Yeah.
And you can shut him down with wings and size, and if you know he's getting the ball, it's not the same Kyrie from 5-6 years ago. Davis, Davis can be overpowering. Maybe he'll have a chip on his shoulder. I don't know.
Depending on the matchup, like there's matchups that he overwhelms where like he can be that one-on-one guy, but for the most part, it's not gonna happen. Bill, I'm
gonna pick my 4.
Very upset about the Luka trade.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because I'm older and I just know how it's gonna play out because I've seen it. But, same, like it was similar to when Shaq got traded to Miami and it was like, Shaq's out of shape, Shaq's fat. And it's like, cool, he's not going to be fat anymore because you pissed him off. And then he went to Miami and he had 2 awesome years for them. If I had to go 4 West teams that I don't think are going to make it, San Antonio, Sacramento,
Those are my odd men out.
Phoenix, Dallas, because of I think the karma and all that shit from the trade. Those would be my 4.
If Kyrie goes down, it's
Kyrie goes down for 2
toast.
weeks,
And he has a bulging disc in his back
It's
at this moment.
toast. PJ Washington is gonna be creating offense. You know, like
Spencer Dinwiddie.
Spencer
It's cool.
Dinwiddie, who's been a nice backup this year, by the way. But he got signed for a minimum contract for a reason. Like, I like Spencer Spencer
Dinwiddie.
But I can't.
You'd have to edit that out of the pod. You
Oh,
accidentally said
God.
Diddy. I'm not even sure we're allowed to say that on a podcast.
I think the Clippers might slide out. I say
Yeah,
that with
I
all due
could see
respect.
that
them too.
All due respect to the season they've had, I just think they could be a candidate.
They're
for this.
overachieving like hell.
Yeah, I think they probably will end up as a play-in team, but maybe get bounced.
And they
out of
haven't
that
had one part of the season where they've had like lose 5 out of 7 or like they haven't done that. They've just been
Pretty steady.
consistently solid all year. They do.
Philadelphia before we go. Just seemed like they're shedding salary, maybe to pay Yabu in the summer,
As they should.
Most popular Sixer.
One-
Replace
one-
Maxey.
one of their best players.
Going to make the play-in.
Are they?
Yes.
Wes, how'd you feel about Embiid missing the Boston and Denver games, but being ready for Dallas and Daniel Gafford and
That's
Luka?
not really like him. He's always like for the big regular season.
did that
matches,
jump
out of
he's
you
or
ready
no?
for that.
The Dallas
no.
game, he was ready.
Look, man.
I feel very, very privileged to be at the table with 2 bona fide Embiid skeptics for a long time.
Just play basketball. It's one of my rules. If you're a
gotta
basketball player, play
I
basketball.
gotta give it up to my guy Ben Golliver. He was actually the first person to point this out to me.
Yeah.
He's like, all this, nobody, like, it's never his fault. Is Tobias Harris? It's Ben Simmons. It's
Brett Brown.
Brett Brown.
Yep.
It's Sam Hinkie. It's always somebody else's fault. And now everybody's like,
The bill has come due.
yeah, it's tough. But no, the Bulls are in the 10th seed, and they're 1 game above the Sixers right now. They're done.
Yeah, that's fair.
The Bulls season is
You don't think
finished.
Pat Williams is going to save these guys?
I don't think Pat Williams is coming to the rescue.
Counter?
Atlanta Hawks are.
Counter?
What was that?
I like Bud Zellis.
Well, sure. But do you
Nice
like him
player.
as a player who's going to cement a play-in?
I wonder if they
No.
can patch together a lot of Levine's stats with the guys they have. If Lonzo can play more minutes, if Bud Zellis can be pretty good. They kept Vucevic.
They did.
I think it's just a Kobe White just shooting.
Could Kobe
more.
White get more? Like I do feel like they can patch together 24 points a game from other people.
I think
And-
the Bulls are done, and I don't think they want to be.
Well, they want to be in the bottom 10, right? That's one of the teams
Right.
that has the.
They have the
protection thing.
incentive, but they got their pick back.
They did get their pick back.
They got their pick
Nothing sweeter.
Well, I mean, so Philly
If
beat
you love something, let it go. If it comes back to
Yeah.
you.
Philly. Philly beats Dallas. Embiid looks good. Doesn't play the next night against Miami, and they end up losing to Miami by 7. Paul George didn't play either. Oh no, he played 32 minutes and had 9 points and 1 rebound and 2 assists.
It's
Are
been
we
that kind of
doing
year.
worse contracts in the league this year?
You fucking better believe we are. He's in the running for #1 pick.
That's tough. Newly minted too. Not even didn't take any time to age into milk. Just
There should
Very
be a
tough.
Twitter account that just says, that the name of the account is I don't understand why you're not playing tonight, and it could just be like John Morant's not playing because, his heel hurts. Paul George knee rest maintenance, like these excuses these dudes have. The Paul George thing's really rough.
they did get Quentin Grimes. I don't like as far as trading Caleb Martin for Quentin Grimes, a better younger player.
Yeah, I didn't understand
not?
that trade from
What?
Dallas' side.
Well,
That's
Jason-
when I started getting scared for Nico Harris.
Well, Jason Kidd hasn't trusted Grimes all year. At least that's the way it appears.
What do you
he
think
doesn't
that
have
is,
any.
though? Is it
I
the
don't-
defense?
cheap score.
But he can guard. He can guard. He can play. I thought his off the dribble game has actually
Yeah,
been
I
pretty
like Quentin
useful.
Grimes.
I never really got why he wasn't
He's-
more of a fixture in the rotation.
I'm
of
pretty sure I
Dallas.
fell in love with Quentin Grimes the same summer league. I thought Matt McClung could stick on a team.
That dream is still alive.
Pretty sure that was
Osceola
the same
Magic, stand
summer
up.
league.
Waz, how you feeling with all the Lakers movement? Is there a spot for Bronny now in the 10-man rotation or no?
Still got to pay his dues in the G League. Probably won't be on the playoff roster.
Okay.
But it's early. He signed a 4-year deal, Bill. So
it's a marathon, not a
it's
sprint.
a marathon, not a sprint with the great Bronny James.
Any last things before we go, Rob?
I just can't believe we're still here with the Suns. I can't believe they move Yusuf Nurkic, all that spinning of their wheels. And we're just going to have to watch them try to get better by doing what exactly? I don't know.
Just having KD more regularly.
I mean, he's been pretty healthy. I know he's out with the ankle thing right now, but had pretty good health by Kevin Durant, modern standards. I guess you're just banking on some members of your rotation to play better, to somehow guard better. I'm very disappointed by where Phoenix season has ended up at this point.
Well, I mean, it could be worse. They could have given away Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson and 7 first-round picks to get there.
They could have.
I'll never get over them just throwing Cam Johnson in that trade. On top of everything else they were giving up, and then Ishbia was, we got to get him. All right, fine, throw in Cam Johnson. That part was nuts.
He was thirsty, man. He had that new owner thirst. He had that look.
It's great. It's the opposite of the look that new owners of the Mavericks have. They have the thirst to antagonize the fan base. And move the team.
I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, you know a few Mavs fans, right?
Oh, they're devastated. I've never seen a fan base this inconsolable, and I get it. I completely get it.
Also, if you know anything about their new owner, she's got her hands in things.
She's got her hands. Yeah,
that are
there's a lot of involvement.
More than basketball.
I want to say
she's a busy woman.
As far as the fan base part of it goes, I thought Josh Bowe of Mavs Moneyball made a point that I thought was really well stated, which is that part of what makes this really hard if you're a Mavs fan is that for this trade to be successful for the Mavs, you basically have to root against. Luka has to fail for this to be a Maverick success, and this is the guy they've invested so much time, so much attention, so much fan adoration in. And now you have to actively root against that guy if you want the Mavericks to be good again.
I just don't get it. I just don't understand it.
You and us and the rest of the NBA.
I just don't get it. And the sad thing is, at least for me, who loves the Celtics, I think he's going to be awesome on the Lakers. I think the fans are going to love him.
Oh, my God.
There's always been a weird LeBron thing because he followed Kobe because he wasn't a Laker.
No baggage for Luka.
It's zero. It's I had a couple people say to me that it was their version of when JFK got shot, hearing the news. They'll remember. Okay. I mean, in a good way.
Damn.
No, in a good way, where they'll always remember where they were. I was at dinner and I got a text. It's one of those trades that you.
There are
remember for the rest of your life.
Other points in history we could refer to.
What's a positive one?
Other than JFK getting shot.
For me, it evoked the decision.
Okay.
For me,
yes.
I'm going to remember exactly.
But we knew the decision was coming.
Yeah,
and we knew Miami was possible.
Yeah,
but I just remember looking
Stephen
at the
A. was
TV
on board.
LeBron is on the Miami Heat. This is with D Wade and Chris Bosh.
Yeah.
It was just
brought to you by Vitamin Water.
Yeah, normally when
my man Jim Gray.
Normally when you remember where you were, it's usually because something terrible happened or something completely insane happened. I remember where I watched the second Holyfield Tyson fight. It was this is insane. I'll always remember this. But the Luka out of nowhere, just hanging out on the couch with my wife, about to start a movie on a Saturday night, and then just trying to decipher what was real for 10 minutes. For 10 minutes, and Shams having to reassure people that
guys,
the trade happened.
I'm telling the truth.
There's never going to be another moment like that. Because we had some other weird shit in the NBA this last decade. We had a really fun one was the DeAndre Jordan to the Mavericks, and then he wasn't going to go to the
hostage
Mavericks.
crisis.
Yes.
The Anthony Davis, not Anthony Davis, Kawhi Leonard.
Yes.
Lakers or Clippers. And then on that Friday night, all of a sudden it was Paul George too. But never without warning.
Yeah.
And I think, I was seeing people are making lists about, was this the craziest sports trade ever? I'm not going to compare this to the Red Sox trading Babe Ruth to the Yankees. That's fucking crazy.
Sure.
But it's certainly, since we've all been working together, the craziest thing that's happened. I think it's the craziest trade that's happened since I've had a column or a podcast. So that's 30 years.
Well, it's also the craziest. You can't compare it to something like the Babe Ruth trade for obvious reasons, but also we are so trade pilled now.
No trade makes you would just say Jimmy Butler. Who cares? I don't need to do an emergency podcast. no trade shocks you like.
Well, when a
this.
deal goes down, it's like, oh, we already know the 3 players who are probably involved for salary reasons. We've worked it out. It's been trade machine to death. If you're one of the apron teams, we basically already know what the deal is going to be by the time it's made. This was a complete shock and
Just
an
old
inexplicable
school,
move.
player for player, pick exchanged, done.
Yep. It's going to go great.
We had some good ones in the 90s, and it kind of brought me back. Like, I remember being on the phone with House after they traded Chris Webber for Mitch Richmond, and he was just disconsolate. Even though Chris Webber was kind of a disaster on the Wizards, but it was still one of those trades where you just knew the upside for us is we might win round 1. And the downside is Chris Webber might go to the Kings and be awesome. He's like 25. And this was like 100 times worse than that.
One of those for me that I vaguely remember is the Knicks getting Sprewell because it was his first team after he choked out
Right.
PJ Carlissimo.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, New York media was not behind the move.
Yeah.
Just so you know, they weren't crazy about it, but like I just remember being like, damn, they got Sprewell? That's nuts.
Couple questions from the chat before we go. Someone asks, how is LeBron going to handle not being the most popular guy on his own basketball team, which has never happened
So
before?
not being the most powerful guy. He is.
That's a change.
He is less relevant. This is the first time he's been less relevant than somebody in his organization ever besides Pat Riley. That's it. That's the only other time he's been on a team where there's a guy who's clearly above him in the pecking order in terms of like you can't tell ownership anything. Like there's nothing you can do about this guy. Luka, like you're irrelevant in comparison to Luka. Like it's a Luka. You're living in Luka's world.
Or
brother.
LeBron, because of the way his brain works and the skills that he has, will just figure out an awesome way to be
attached
not
to
quite
Luka.
a sidekick, but like a 1A, 1B type thing.
Yes.
This is now
We're a united front.
Yep.
he'll treat this like a buddy cop movie, which was the way they tried to do it the first year with Wade
Yeah.
in 2011.
Joint
'Cause
media
Wade was
availability every
incredible in
time.
2011.
Oh
like
my
those
God.
guys,
So good.
those guys were equal as great
Yeah.
players that year. LeBron was better the 2 years before, but that was the last time we've seen at least somebody at the same
Yes.
linked with him.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that it's a teammate that has a lot of the same bad habits LeBron has. Luka not too interested in defense. LeBron uninterested in defense.
Well, he's been interested
little-
when he's
no,
been-
right now,
Oh, well,
age 40.
He
Both of
is
them can
if
be
you're
a
40
little-
plus, defense is optional. Like that's one of the rules.
Both of them can be a little bit, guys, I got it. Can you clear out for me at this stage of their careers?
Sure.
How they navigate that, but I have no doubt that they're going to navigate it.
But I think it's the discrepancy between these things where I think LeBron is still wildly more popular than Luka Doncic. Luka
Yeah.
Doncic is a huge institution to basketball
Yes.
sickos like us.
Yes.
To the outside world, it's not even comparable.
That won't be the case for very long.
That is true.
Someone
That Luka
asked for,
jersey is going to move.
someone on the YouTube chat asked for trade grades before we go. Hunter to the Cavs. Cavs, what's the grade?
B.
For the Cavs,
Yeah.
I think B is fair.
I'm going B+. I like Hunter. For the Hawks.
B-. Like that's a nothing move. That's a backwards move.
I might go C just because I don't see the urgency of it.
Levert,
Yeah,
Niang,
C.
2
Just
second
move to
round,
C.
3 second round picks, 2 swaps. D-. Butler to Golden State. Golden State, I have A-.
That's fair.
A-.
Maybe, maybe even a solid A. Like
Yeah.
you have one objective, and it's to make a Steph Curry team
and
as good
got
as you
a
can.
star. When Jimmy's right, he's a star.
I said it wasn't a Hail Mary, but it was 3rd and 13 to A.J.
yeah.
Brown in double coverage.
100%.
It was double coverage. Let's hope A.J. Brown makes a
Desperation
play
move.
or pass interference.
It's a
We're trying to
desperation
get
move.
some sort of thing to happen. For Miami, what do you got, Wes?
Miami, this is A+, honestly.
This is A plus.
A+. What were they going to get for Jimmy who
A+.
no longer wants to be around them?
I think for the Miami grade, you have to factor in the longer saga.
He's done.
You have to trade him in the offseason.
Okay, well.
A-
If
yeah.
we're factoring that.
I think that's part of the deal.
Yeah.
Then
Like they should
then
have
C-
traded him last summer. Yeah.
Then D.
I think
They
it's
get
a-
a D.
I think it's probably a
Their
D.
handling of the Jimmy situation as a whole.
Yeah.
Oh, D. F.
I want to say it's a D.
You got to go to summer school.
And also, they might still be the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference by the end of the year. Like I think both things are true.
But the deal as the world exists right now.
Yeah.
After Jimmy just tanked his value, after you literally couldn't bring the guy back.
Yep.
Okay, but no, the way they managed the Jimmy situation is an F. Sorry, Pat.
A- for the trade, F- for the last 6 months. For them.
Yes.
And F- for Jimmy too. Nobody covered themselves
It's
in glory.
tough.
Mark Williams to the Lakers. What do you got, Mahoney? Lakers grade.
B-.
Waz.
B- for me as well. I think they kind of jumped the gun on this one a little bit. For a guy who's very unproven.
They clearly identified a player they really like, and I like him too. I just am very spooked by his overall injury level. The level of consistent injury concern with multiple parts of his body is concerning.
I'm going B+. I think LeBron takes him under his wing, introduces him to the Versa Climber, and some Pilates shit and all the other stuff LeBron does.
But people say this about Christian Wood. They say, like we've had that.
Here's the thing, though.
conversation
I don't
before.
mind trading for injured guys from shitty franchises. Although Charlotte seems like they've turned it around a little bit, but this is a guy. He's going from like worst possible franchise you could be on. Although they turned around with Charles Lee at least this year to now Lakers, big spotlight. But I'm going B+ just because he really jumped out of the TV the last few weeks. Like
He's good.
He was noticeably impactful on both ends. Even though I'm not positive he knows what he's doing on defense, but he's big. He's got size. He leans on people. If he's around where the rebound is, he's getting it. Like I just think he's a good player.
I want to say this too. Rob Pelinka is not a good deal maker, but the Lakers.
No, we can't say that anymore because he stole Luka Doncic from.
Stop it.
He Jedi mind tricked his
Stop
buddy.
Stop it. The Lakers' ability to like recognize talent, young people that have some level of talent, like more to give.
They've scouted well.
They're pretty good at that.
Charlotte grade. What do you got, Mara?
B+.
I'm gonna go just straight B.
B+ for me.
It's the only reason it's tough for me is like Charlotte is a team that should be betting on upside given where they are in their cycle, and so for them
But
to
they've
fail,
had the guy in their building.
They've been through it. I give them that. But like Dalton Connect is not an upside prospect.
Dalton Connect is older than Mark Williams.
It's not what you want.
Not
he's
only
a
is he
rookie.
older, he's like 2-3 years older. I think.
Ugh.
I think he's like almost 25.
Yeah, he's a senior citizen rookie.
I'm going. I really wanted to do a D-, but I'm going to go C- because I think Mark Williams was hurting their plan to get Cooper Flag at all costs when he's putting up 25 and 16
Too good.
on certain nights. They
Too
need
good
to get
to
him
be
the
a
fuck off
Hornet.
the roster.
Got to
but,
get Yusuf Nurkic in there.
But you make the key point. Like if you're a young up-and-coming team, you kind of want the 22-year-old guy who's 2 years away from being a free agent, who's putting up huge stats.
Like you can afford to see if he can get healthy if you're the Hornets, even more so than the Lakers can, frankly.
My fear with the Lakers, if I'm them, is like, why is Charlotte trading this guy? It's like, hey, you want to buy my car?
Yeah.
No, it's running great. Did you see? We just here's some pictures of the road trip we just went on. Car's doing good. Next trade, Brandon Ingram to Toronto. I'm going to start, and for Toronto, it's a D.
D.
D-.
D.
I don't have any understanding of why this deal is happening.
Masai flew too close to the sun with the title.
Dude.
He hasn't been the same since. For New Orleans,
They got New Orleans. If you told me a week ago the
That they got
Pelicans got a
anything.
first-round pick for Brandon Ingram, I'm giving him a standing ovation. That's
Yeah.
that's a B+,
B+.
B+ from me.
is Bruce Brown a buyout guy? And could he be a Denver Nugget?
Ooh. Now we're talking. Now we're cooking.
Ooh.
I like Bruce Brown.
I like Bruce Brown too. He started to put it together a little bit. Kelly Olynyk too, a player who I kind of thought might get rerouted by the actual deadline.
Yeah.
Also could be a buyout candidate, but they need bigs there, so maybe not.
Bruce Brown, like athletic feature a month from now, headline Money Isn't Everything, about Bruce Brown's tough last 2 years after winning the title.
But it was.
But was it
'cause
worth it?
If he gets the money and still gets to go back to
Oh.
Denver,
Yeah, there we go.
Hey.
you can have it all.
Middleton Kuzma, I'll start. Milwaukee, F+. Not quite an F-, but an F+. Because I've watched Kuzma play basketball this year.
I didn't know they gave F pluses.
F
Solid
pluses.
B for me.
Well, they got
Solid
under the cap. B.
Solidly.
The last Kuzma fans.
Solidly B.
What
I
planet
really
are you
do-
living on?
I think Kuzma won. He like looks like a crazy person with the way he dresses and the hair and the tattoos. He's actually a pretty grounded dude.
He posts about RFK Jr. all the time.
This
is your grounded dude?
Listen, a lot of reasonable people are RFK heads.
Okay.
Believe it or not.
All right,
Like,
all right.
sorry,
Fluor-
like
fluoride?
people- we don't. We don't look. We don't have to agree with everybody who loves RFK, even if we don't.
I'm not the person propping up Kyle Kuzma as the voice of moderation.
This is great.
And good
I knew
sense.
after 2 hours
Telling
we'd end
you,
up in a
when it
Kyle
comes
Kuzma
to
fight.
basketball, Kuz is gonna get it done, y'all.
All right.
I mean, when you miss 73% of your threes, what's not to love? Trade grades. Did we do New Orleans for this? Yeah, we did. So then I guess Phoenix would be the other one. Nurkic. Getting rid of Nurkic.
God.
Using one of your dumb firsts that you gave up the 2031 first for. Getting your fans excited about Martin, who's like the 19th swing you've had, who's like a defense shooter guy.
I'm indifferent.
Okay. Yeah, how about this?
C.
No grade.
Yeah,
Incomplete.
no grade is fine.
Not applicable.
Did not register.
And then Memphis, whatever the hell they did with Marcus Smart.
And just like clearing out players
Another incomplete?
who could help them.
I don't understand, like, just giving up on Marcus Smart being a playoff contributor. If you have designs on being a serious player there, maybe his injuries are so cooked that they don't think he'll be on the floor anyway. That's the only thing that makes sense.
They are a potential buyout team because they're not over the aprons, so cleared to roster spots, have some potential
Maybe they've
there.
already been on the phone with some folks.
Maybe so. I want to say I saw it pop up that I think they took back Marvin Bagley.
Marcus Smart to the Celtics?
Oh, are we allowed to buy out? We're not allowed to get buyout guys.
I don't believe so.
Yeah.
No, I think they're over the second apron. So
Yeah, your
no
team
buyouts
is
whatsoever.
way too
The
expensive.
apron just
Bill.
ruins everything.
By the way,
Except gave us the weirdest, craziest trade deadline in
true.
the history of the league.
Yeah, you're probably right. Wait, Sacramento, San Antonio. The Fox.
For Fox?
I have an A+ for San Antonio and like a C for Sacramento and
Solid
then an
A
F
for
for Chicago.
solid A for San Antonio.
Yep, I'm there.
I think B for Sacramento. Like, I don't know. I thought the haul was good. The Bulls, what they got back for Levine and just making themselves a part of this trade, like, I
That's
called
F.
it a hill of beans. Rob said it was a stump of beans. It
something
was
less
not
than a
of
hill.
beans.
What was the Vince Carter trade when Toronto got back like Alonzo Mourning, but he had kidney issues?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
With Eric Williams and then some other terrible contract and like 2 bad firsts.
When the
It's
pri-
always bad when you're taking the bad contracts back in a trade.
And for the only benefit being your own pick that you were going to keep anyway because your team is bad. The pick was protected. Like, you were going to keep it.
The pick was top 10 protected.
So, yeah, F for the
And what
Bulls.
they got was, take the protection off. We're one of the 5 worst teams in the league. Take the protection
I think
off.
the Kings did all right. I'm going to give the Kings like a solid B,
Yeah,
especially
B.
under the circumstances.
B.
They didn't have a lot to work
Under
with.
duress.
Under duress.
Before we go, Luka Doncic getting traded. What's your best Luka Doncic trade that you think would have been a better trade for Dallas than the trade they made?
Player for player?
I think it's got to be a pack. It would have to be like a Houston
Yeah,
Hall
it would have
or a
just been
Memphis
like,
Hall.
the only thing that would have made people happy was 6 years of picks, owning somebody's draft picks from now till Timbuktu and some young guys that are nice. So, I don't know, Houston making the money work, Amen Thompson, bunch of picks in the future.
Can't keep him in Texas though. He has to leave. You can't.
It's just,
Well, like sending him to the
football
Lakers
thing,
is
you
bad.
don't trade him to your
San Antonio,
division
Houston are
kinda thing.
out. You can't keep him in Texas.
I
Who
don't
says
know.
no? Who says no? Tatum, Luka. If you know Dallas is trading Luka,
Boston
I
says
don't
no.
think Boston would do it.
I agree. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't a homer.
Karmically, obviously Luka's a much better player, but karmically, that's a disgusting move.
It's almost like
karmically.
if you go to the finals, don't blow up the superstar core of the team that just went. Like what a crazy thought.
Like you leaving your wife for Sydney Sweeney.
You're trying to get a reaction.
Everybody would think that was insane of you. Come on.
Bam and Hero and every Miami pick for Luka on a contract.
I don't like that. But you know what I would like is listening to all these offers. I would love if I were the Mavericks to sit there and actually field them.
I was like, would Minnesota trade Ant Edwards for Luka Doncic?
I would
100%.
love Ant Edwards. I
Love
would
him.
absolutely trade him for
Yeah,
Luka
but the
Doncic.
problem is, if you're trading for Luka, you also have to factor in, will he want to stay in a year and a half?
That's the thing. That's what Nico Harrison's trying to say, guys. About all of these picks and all of these great trades that were out there. That's what Nico Harrison's trying to explain to you
No,
guys.
what
That's why
what
the
he's
only
trying to
one-
explain is that defense wins championships, apparently.
The only
And
one
that's
that
it.
makes sense from a basketball standpoint that I think would have been 6-hour meetings on both sides is Giannis.
Yeah. Yeah.
For both sides. And I get if you're Milwaukee, you probably don't do it because it's like, well, why would Luka re-sign here in a year and a half?
And you trade
But
him.
fundamentally, for what he wanted from the trade, which was size and rim protection,
Defense,
Giannis is the better
yeah.
version of Davis.
All NBA, MVP kind of guy, win now.
I still feel like if this trade was Reeves, Davis, 29 and 31, and 2 swaps,
Different conversation.
it's still not enough.
But
but at
it's
least it's
much
like,
different.
oh, I see it. They don't
Yeah.
feel like they can resign
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
That's
it's
a
a
lot.
different combo.
Yep.
Whatever
But
they
it
got,
wasn't.
wasn't it? Thanks to Michelob Ultra. They sponsored our
Rob.
little YouTube live thingy. A Superior Light Beer, the official beer sponsor of the NBA.
Also, we should say happy birthday to Was.
Thank you.
Today?
Oh,
Today.
yes, today's my birthday.
Happy birthday to our colleague Siri Sohi as well.
We got you Kyle Kuzma on the team.
Yes. Yeah, shouts to Sarah Sohi, my birthday twin. We never get our love.
Sear it.
Yes, we never get our love in the Ringer Slack on the
Oh.
birthday love. So
Called
we're doing
out.
it right now live on the Bill Simmons trade deadline special.
Wow, what a weird way to end the pod. Happy birthday. What happens tonight? You and Luca just going out?
Going
Just
out,
making bad food and drink choices?
going out for steaks tonight. So yeah, man, that'll be it. Just a steak dinner. That's my birthday today.
Hell yeah.
That's actually what I do every birthday.
What part of Los Angeles do you think Luka Doncic will live in with the limited information you have about things that he likes?
I like this as like a personality test.
Ooh, things that realistically, he should move to Beverly Hills because it's close to all the things that he's going to like socially. It's not going to be in Beverly Hills itself, but Beverly Hills is adjacent to where a lot of these things happen. So yeah,
What's the hookah
somewhere in
proximity?
the hookah proximity is close.
Okay.
Somewhere in the hills of Beverly Hills. Because Brentwood is too far from the action, to be honest with you. Brentwood is too far. Bel Air is a little bit too secluded as well. What's another one that folks? He's clearly not an East Sider. He's not gonna move with the freaking Hollywood East Side people. I think he's a Beverly Hills guy.
All right, caveat. They practice in El Segundo. He's 25. Has mentioned the beach and the ocean a couple times.
Yes.
So I guess that is a Brentwood is, you get the crib and you get to be closer to the ocean. I don't think he moves to what are you thinking, like Manhattan Beach type of thing?
I was wondering, could he be that's where the hockey players live, right? The LA Kings live in like Manhattan, Hermosa. Russillo's there.
Luka's not a hockey guy. He's an NBA guy. Let's just put it like that.
I see him in the Bay for a year while he figures it out.
I don't think he's
Do
gonna
you
do
think
that.
you run into Luka Doncic in LA at 2 a.m. at a club in the next 2 months?
Yes.
You think so?
Yes. And maybe not a club, but one of the things my guys at H would do. I could see him being an H Wood guy. 100%.
I'll have to take your word for it.
100%.
Do you
And
think
it's not going to be like a nightclub, loud music, blah, 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 but like
A lounge.
Leo's going to be there.
is there a world where Luka lives with Rob and his wife? If Rob moved to LA,
Hypothetically.
Rob gets the guest house in the back of his Brentwood estate.
Luka gets the big
Would it
old-
be ethical or unethical for you to live in the guest house of Luka Doncic's Brentwood estate?
I think I would officially have to give up my awards vote if I'm living in Luka Doncic's
Listen,
house.
first of
that's
all,
fair. I'm glad you're open about it.
You know?
there are media members in LA who that's open to, but they do not work for theringer.com. I promise you that.
We stand up for journalism here.
Yeah, we try.
You know? Everyone but conspiracy.
We're going to be holding these guys' feet to the fire.
speaking truth to power, maybe living in their guest house.
Guys, I had a blast. Happy birthday, Wise.
Thank you.
Thanks to everybody behind the scenes. And thanks to everybody who listens. Thanks for the questions, too. See you next time.